friends, good evening. This is Ankit Khandelwal, your host from Delhi, and we have Kimberly Calhoun joining us from US, North Carolina. Good morning, Kim, and good morning to the world. Today we are on Podcasters Thursday, and we have some great podcasters lining up around the world. The first one is a lady who did mountaineering record in Guinness Book of Records, and she climbed all the mountains within 1 year from time frame from September 2018 to September 2019, and she'll be joining us soon. And after that, we have some great podcasters joining us throughout the day, and it would be a great show to start with. I would like to invite our special guest, Alexander Starr from Canada. Hi, Sasha. Good morning. How are you?
Hello, good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning, Alexander, Sasha,
Good.
Star. Anyway, I call him Sasha, folks, and
Yeah,
that's why it gets a little confusing every
sure.
once in a while because
But
look at his name.
Sasha is looking cool today with the golden and green color shirt.
Yes, he is very dashing today. Also, just one of the things I want to announce, he should really be on our Celebrity Day, right? Because
Yeah.
Sasha's a big
Okay.
celebrity in chess and with this great, wonderful show on Saturdays. I hope more people start watching it because it's not just about chess. It's about the music. It's about just it's wonderful. It's awesome. So good conversations, people who have survived COVID. Just awesome show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've just sent you this article from New York Times about Irina Krush. Did you see that?
I will definitely put that up. Yeah.
Yeah, very,
So
very well written article. And I read also comments, and one of the comments is that since these days there is nothing much happened in sports, so New York Times and other publications started to write more and more about chess, because in chess there are still live, there are some tournaments online, as you know,
Yeah.
and it's kind of a newsworthy activity of which you can write and inform people, and other sports are almost like dead now. Except yesterday, I've heard some noises that NHL will resume playing, and they still want to have 2020 Stanley Cup champion. And but
yeah, the hockey league of all things. Wow. Okay, that's it. Well,
mhm.
they're covered from head to toe, and they got that big shield on the rink, right? So the crowds
Yeah,
are not sitting close together. Their sweat and spit and whatever, because we talked about that at the other show, is not going all over the crowd, right? So, but they're covered from head to toe usually. All they need is a really good face shield. So,
yeah, yeah.
and that might protect their faces from getting hit with sticks and pucks. That's actually one of my favorite sports.
Yeah, you know,
Hockey.
I love soccer obviously as number one, number two, and number three as well. And NHL, I started to follow hockey when my grandson started to get in his first this kids level, and then by now he's already 19, and he's playing on professional level essentially. So obviously I started to follow the hockey, but what I can say about the hockey, one thing, it's the most difficult sport to put bets on. It's the most difficult of all. Because in soccer, you have a bunch of favorite teams, whether it's English Professional League or even Bundesliga or some European Championships or so on. In NHL, yes, there are favorites, but any team can beat any other team on any given moment, and not by an accident, simply because there are so many good teams, good players, and there are favorites, but also the problem is there are three results. There's one team wins, another team wins, and a draw. So you have to select, like in tennis, you select a winner, and there is a winner and loser. Whereas in NHL, there is also a draw. Now, mind you, there is still not a draw because they have overtime and somebody wins in overtime. But when you put your initial bet, unless you put money bet, you still have to put one of the three results. And that makes hockey very, very difficult to put bets on. I do occasionally, but I'd rather do it in soccer, which I understand much better, and tennis.
Well,
Yeah,
it's all a game of chance to me. No matter how much analytics you put into it, you have to rely on the players to do their very best and having a great day. And this is something I learned in fantasy football, when we would evaluate each of the football players' week and what they were doing, and were they sick, and did they have a fight with their spouse or get into a fight with their best friend, and so it was all about the drama too, and that's how everybody kind of plays out their analytics. And I thought, that's a lot of work to put into gambling.
yes,
Because
yes,
at the
it
end of
is.
the
It
day,
is.
it's a game of chance. Granted, there are some really good guys out there. Some who claim that they're 61% accurate with their picks, but I still think that was a lot of work to put into gambling. So it was fun. I still enjoy the fantasy football stuff, but I think there's got to be better ways to get out there and play some games and have some funs. Do some guesses, like guessing in chess, which you do a lot of the work for us, and a
Yeah,
lot of ways.
but that's not gambling. There you
No, it's
use your
no, it's
skills to
strategic,
predict the
right?
move. Absolutely. But you see, I want to tell you something. If you already love watching sport, I mean, if you're not into sports, you don't need to even to consider putting any bets on a sport game, whether it's a basketball. I love basketball actually bets. They're a lot of fun. So, but the thing is, if you do love to watch sports, I'm going to tell you something. It's completely different experience when you're just watching the game and when you have a bet on
Oh
outcome.
yeah.
Even if it's $1 or $100 or $10,000, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's your perception, your participation in the game, your level of concentration watching the game is entirely, completely different when you put even a small bet or you don't have any bets.
No, it's
Very
huge
different
because now
thing.
you've got something in the game worth watching. Or it's just like horse races,
Absolutely.
right? It's a lot more fun when you got a little wager going on those horses, and you can root for something, even if you're not a big fan of any particular horse, but you just pick something and pick someone to pull for. But no, when you got a wager in something, it doesn't even matter what the wager is, whether it's money, the next drink, who
Yeah,
does
I
the
mean,
chores next week, right? Who's going to do the dishes? All right, it's all in, having something wagered on that. But what you're doing is very interesting. Nobody else has ever done it, and that's where you guess the next moves. And it's not anything other than you put up some crowns so people can make it more interesting, and they put crowns on it, and it's just a different way to do chess and make it interesting.
yeah,
And
yeah. Also, it helps you to improve your game as well because obviously, if you trying to predict the moves, you have to think, okay, this grandmaster, for example, Sheriff. Sheriff is going to play actually this Saturday. We will have Sheriff. He will play all comers. He will play like Master Challenge, so people are getting in line, and he play one after another. And of course, we will have a chess talk about current events and so on. So you have to think, okay, if sheriff is playing contest and it's a sheriff's move, so you must ask yourself, it doesn't matter what you think is the best move. You have to think for Grandmaster Sheriff what he would play in this particular position,
right,
how he would evaluate it, how he would come with this move or with that move, what move most likely he'll do. So you have to now you have to of course have basic understanding of chess. You have to see the hints by computers. So you already have basically it's a level playing field. Everyone has a chance. So you see the board as everybody else. You see the hints of computer like everybody else. You listen to commenters. So basically, you have a lot of and your own intuition and understanding of the game. So there are a lot of things to consider. Finally, you have to see your your position versus other participants. How many crowns you
Exactly.
have, and how many crowns are you trying to catch somebody to get the best, the first prize, or you're trying to preserve your position because you're a leader. So you will probably put five, maybe 25 crowns. Now, if you're trying to catch somebody, then you play more aggressively. You'll put 100 crowns on each move. So there is a lot of strategy involved in this. It's
Oh,
not
yeah.
just to predict the move, but also to evaluate how you're doing against your competition. All
No,
this
and I think there's a lot to be gained from it, not just the opportunity to win, but it's like you said, you can learn strategies, you can learn how other people would make moves or even guess on the moves. You can also just meet people, right? You can purely sit there and go, wow, I really like the way that person guesses things. I'm going to go out and introduce myself. So it's another way to network. And so there's just so much more to it than just the game
absolutely.
itself. Yeah.
Yeah. But I want to tell you something that all these participants in the chess contest, they are all very competitive people. And obviously they're trying to not,
Really?
and it's very
I get it.
psychologically. These people, let's see, most of the contestants, although we do have some grandmasters playing from time to time, most of them are probably master or first category level players, say, like 2000 rating, right? Now, these people, obviously, as you know, all, if you understand economics of chess, say top 20 grandmasters in the world are making 99.99% of the money available in the chess world. So someone on the level of 2000, which is really nothing, even my rating is higher than 2000, for these people to win in chess, through chess, because of chess, even $20 means much more than to get their $5,000 monthly paycheck or whatever they're working, something or so on. But this $20 means much more to them because they earn it through their efforts of chess, their practice
Exactly.
of chess.
Exactly. In many ways, and I'm not comparing it to fantasy football, but what I'm saying is what the difference is that in the game of fantasy football or basketball or baseball, you're basically just picking your players, right? You're not. You're calculating that maybe they'll pass so many times or pass more or less, but that's it. In the game of chess, you're strategically watching each move and strategically at that moment guessing which direction they will go. And your options are variable. It's not only one or two choices, sometimes you have three or four, but each move is so different and each game will be so different because of that. So it's not like the fantasy football or stuff like that where you get to just kind of guess, oh, this is going to be my best players. It's one step up from that. It's a scale
Oh,
up.
yeah,
and um
absolutely.
and I think that people who like to stretch their minds, once they've done this, they won't be able to go back. They won't be able to go do anything else. And that that's a saying. I'm going to have to go find that. Once you've expanded your mind or stretched your mind, you can never go back. So yeah, this is very exciting to move forward on that. Again, the show. Now, when are you going to do the next tournament? That's the
Okay,
question.
the next contest, it's very interesting, is that essentially I started to do the chess show, and the first show, which flopped big time, was that our chess contest. But why it flopped? Because of the technical um, ambitions to somehow adapt the contest what we had on our side for some time to the new format of yard stream, and not only that but combine somehow two together. And basically we faced an impossible proposition, and because even to guess your moves, you have to register on chess stars, and all the engine and all the technology is there. So you're on yard stream, and you can see what's happening on you see what's happening on the chess stars, but at the same time, I was do comments on both yard stream and then coming back to chess stars, coming back to yard stream. So there were a lot of technical imperfections, simply oversights, over optimism on our side. Somehow we will figure it once we'll get going. No, no, that's not the way how to do it. So this time we are planning to have our contest on June 13th, and hopefully, see, I know that Alexei Shirov might be interested to play. He will most likely confirm one way or another on Saturday, this Saturday. So if Sheriff will be playing, then I need to bring somebody extremely strong opponent of him, because it's not worthwhile for Sheriff to play some of the not so strong players. Okay, so it has to be very strong opposition, number one. Number two, we are working, and we will have it by 13th for sure, is ability to show video, not only sound, but the audio, but video as well. So when share screen option will be adopted on Yardstream, then you will see complete picture. You will have complete package, which will include audio, video, the moves, the predictions, everything will be there. So there is no need to jump from Yardstream to chess stars and vice versa. Everything will be in one package, which will be streamed, and this way all this technology will be put in test too on 13th. And when it's all working 100%, hopefully it will be there. Then next contest will be probably second week of July. And now the question is how to combine this show that we are doing now on Saturdays at 3 o'clock with the contests which we always had on Chess Stars at 3 o'clock. And that's why I choose 3 o'clock Saturday, because I wanted basically to bring contests to StreamYard. And that's still a plan. I'm not deviating from the plan. The only thing is that, and I don't want my show to be on the way of a contest. So we can have both. We can have both. The question is to have them on different dates, or to have it maybe one after another. I can start chess show, say, at 2:30, and the contest at 3:30, right, following the chess show, something like this. So
well, we should take a vote. We should, since how, and this is, this is what I like about this, is we're talking about running a business in front of the world, and these are the things that happen when you're running a business, because and this is very educational, because now the people can hear, okay, we've got this idea, and Sasha has this great and wonderful show, and I really don't think that we should stop the show just for the tournament. I think that the tournament should exist as well somewhere, whether it's right after Sasha's show or on another day. I think Saturdays is good. And so maybe after your show, like where we're kind of relaxed, had a great conversation. Or you could just incorporate it in your show. And the reason why I say that is your show's an hour long. But, maybe you can make it a little bit longer. Open with your show of your standard interviewing of the people, then do the tournament, right?
Yeah, that would be great. Also, it gives me another opportunity to explain to people who never played contests before really what it's all about and how to do it and what to expect or so on. Because people are a little bit scared of something new, something unusual, something they never seen before, and so on. And to me, to sort of my psychological mindset, to try something new, it's like a part of life. I always looking to try something new, but some people are getting scared if it's something new and they never tried. So it would give me opportunity to spend maybe 10-15 minutes just to explain the concept, number one, and number two, to show practically how it could be done, how it should be done, so on. So, yeah, that's probably what we're going to do.
Right. No, and I think we'll follow your lead, Sasha. But what we're going to do is start advertising it, promote, letting people know about what we're doing and when and how they can register and sign up. And I guess that's just a couple weeks from now, right?
Well, yeah, it's coming. It's yes, you're right. On Saturday, 2 weeks from Saturday. Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Saturday,
And
2 weeks.
this Saturday, we're also going to have something new because Alexis Sheriff, who's a super grandmaster, formerly #2 in the world after Gary Kasparov. Um, by the way, maybe very few people who follow the chess know there was a great animosity between Kasparov and Shirov at the time. Probably they're okay now, but at the time, Shirov was really furious at Garry Kasparov because at that time, Garry Kasparov in 1995 won his match against Vishy Anand and remain world champion. But then by 1998, it's traditionally played every 3 years. And by that time, there was no challenger for Garry Kasparov. And he had to almost create himself a challenger for his own match. So the two best players of the world supposedly were um, Vishy Anand and maybe also Kramnik. Kramnik was doing really well at the time. He became much strong. He was younger than Vishanand. So idea was to play a match between Vishanand and Kramnik, and the winner would challenge Garry Kasparov for world championship.
No,
So Vishanand,
Quick question.
sorry?
A quick question because everyone knows who is Gary Kasparov and people follow him other than all other chess players because I just know about Gary Kasparov and Vishnath Anand and a couple of more. But I don't follow chess that much the way you follow. I just know some people and then I know the game, how to play the game. But as I remember, because I was in my teens when Vishnath Anand became the chess master, or grandmaster. But is he the first one to beat Gary Kasparov when he was at peak?
No, Vishanant didn't beat Kasparov in a match. Well, he won maybe a few games against Garry Kasparov, but he never beat him in a match. In fact, the only match they played was in 1995.
Okay.
Anand was a challenger. He even won first game against Garry Kasparov, but then Garry Kasparov won 4 games and won the match. So
Okay.
the idea in 1998 was to have a match between Vishy Anand and Vladimir Kramnik, and the winner would challenge Garry Kasparov for a world championship. Now, the next what's happened is Vishy Anand asked for bank guarantees as his prize was concerned. And
Okay.
the organizers were furious that it was a well-known Spanish businessman, Luis Rentero. He was furious and he said that nobody ever asked him for bank guarantees and he's not going to provide it. And Vishanant had nothing better to do as to forfeit his participation in the match. So now Garry Kasparov wanted to find a replacement for Vishanant. And they found it in the name of Alexei Shirov, who won a few tournaments at the time, and he became a challenger who would play Vladimir Kramnik, and the winner would get Garry Kasparov to play a match. So to win against Kramnik, it would be a great achievement for Alexei Shirov. And guess what? Although Kramnik was heavy favorite to win, but Alexei Shirov won the match, and quite convincingly. So Kramnik collected his prize as a loser of the match and left. So Alexei Shirov, as a winner of the match, now he had upcoming match with Garry Kasparov, then even a loser would get hundreds of thousands of dollars. So everything is going great for Alexei Shirov. But now, when it came to organizing match with Garry Kasparov, Kasparov had such a huge positive score against Shirov that no organizer wanted to organize a match of Kasparov against Shirov. So somebody finally offered a very small prize fund of $500,000 And in my opinion, even though it's still very, very small, because at that time prices were for world championship were anywhere from $2 to $5 million. So $500,000 was essentially insult. But considering that it's better than nothing, I think probably Shirov should have played. However, Shirov declined to play this match with a for price fund of $5 million, and the match never took place. But Kasparov still needed to play somebody for a world championship. So he played a loser of that match, Vladimir Kramnik. So what an injustice is that there was a match, the loser got his prize and a match for a world championship, and the winner get nothing. He did not pay, he was not paid even 1 cent for his victory against Kramnik. He never had a match for a world championship against Kasparov, and that was a great, great insult and tragedy of Shirov's career. And after that, his career went into decline, and he's still very, very strong grandmaster. Very entertaining style. He's very sharp. He's a attacking player, and hopefully we will see some of his great technique on this Saturday. So we will have a small talk about chess and what's happening, and then he will play all comers in a probably 3 minutes speed games. But that will be an event to look forward.
Sasha, I remember there was some maybe a world championship or something happened in '95 between Gary Kostrov and Vishwanath Anand, and they played 20 or 15, 20 games at a time. Do you remember anything like that?
I think they played 18 games match.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
so that 18 game, what was the score between them?
Okay, the first 8 games were all draws. And
Okay.
then Anand won number 9 game. Anand won. And after that, Kasparov beat him 4 times.
Okay.
Somehow, Anand, I don't know, Kasparov was prepared to the match very well. He played some very strong openings. And I think Anand was a little bit on the shaky ground. I think if they would play much in 2000s, probably Anand had a chance to win, because obviously Anand was improving at the time, and Garry Kasparov was on the top of his game by 1995.
And why we don't have chess as an Olympic game?
Well, so supposedly chess is not considered to be athletic game, although you can lose 6,000 calories while playing chess, but it's not considered to be athletic game. And Olympiad is all about athletics and so on. And there were actually a lot of discussions about making chess as part of Olympic Games.
Yeah.
And but you see, the problem is that chess have their own Olympiad, only chess Olympiad.
Okay.
And because of that, maybe that's impediment for them to become Olympic sport. And so far, it's not moving anywhere. A lot of discussions, but it's still there.
And what time a chess player retire? I mean, or is there any player still playing at a very old age?
There are players who, after the age of 60, were in the top 2-3 players in the world. Of course, it's Viktor Korchnoi, it's Vasily Smyslov. Vasily Smyslov, when he was 62 years old, he was playing match against Kasparov for the right to challenge Anatoly Karpov, who was world champion at the time. So Smyslov, at the age of 62, he lost match against Kasparov, but he was at the age of 62 number 3 player in the world.
That's interesting.
And a lot of them were playing very well into their 70s. So it's hard to say.
I mean, because it's a game that you can play forever as long as you can push or think the. No, it's definitely a game that somebody in their hundreds could play somebody in their like 5 or 6, right? It's granted probably not a fair game at that point, but it's a game that anybody can play, any age, any gender, any race, and you get better at it as you play. So
That's right. And some people, some people, for example, Fischer, when he became world champion at the age of 29, you know what he did? He just quit chess. He stopped playing. Why? He was scared of losing the game. And he decided the best way not to lose is not to play. As my late grandfather, he would say that only people who know how to swim are drowned. Because if people who don't know how to swim, they just don't go to swim. So they will never drown because they don't swim. So that was a tragedy of Robert Fischer, his fear of losing, and he quit the game at the age of 29.
wow. And that's the sad part about it. And I've always heard people say, "Quit while you're at the top of your game," right? So,
Exactly. So
and
when you,
yeah, I mean,
well,
you
it's
see
hard to say. A lot of these people are playing at the very old age, 70s, even later, just because of the love of the game. They love game more than they love themselves. In case of Fischer, he loved himself more than the game. That's why it was easy for him to quit.
no, I mean, it's definitely the way it goes. And hello, good evening to Hong Kong, Rakesh. How you
Good
doing?
evening. Good evening.
Good
I
evening.
remember this picture of Bobby Fischer. He was just about 13 and he was playing a whole table full of grandmasters. He was going from one
Yeah.
board to another and playing them. I was there. I did watch his game against Boris Spassky at that time. I think it was in Reykjavik, and
Yeah, World Championship.
World Championship in Reykjavik, and then he quit, and then so it left you with a feeling of dissatisfaction. Yeah, but after that, the Karpov and Kasparov, and I think then Vishwanathan, re-excited my interest, and then now there was a young chap who defeated Magnus Carlsen, wasn't there? A young player.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so I was quite interested in that. But I'm a very, very average player, so or probably below average. So,
right before
It's
this
not
program,
about that. It's about just playing. And I'm sure there are players out there. It's like I always start to play someone. They go, "Do you really want to open that way?" And I go, "It's just a game. It's just a game. Enjoy. Don't stress your mind out to have to win. Just enjoy exercising what brain power you have to. And if you get an easy game out of me, big deal. But it's just a game." Sasha, and the thing is I guess that's why I don't irritate people is I'm not a competitive. I am competitive in certain ways. I'm competitive in business, right? But when it comes to a lot of sports, and I've always just loved individual sports, right? I love the sport where I compete against myself. So, hitting a tennis ball against the wall, or skiing, right? Snow skiing, ice skating, swimming, those kind of things where I push myself to the limit. But when I do compete against somebody else, of course, everybody likes to win. But I always like to take the attitude, I just enjoyed the game. And thank you for giving me the honor and pleasure of the time to do this. And a lot of people don't do that. So I've avoided the competitive edge of a lot of games because of that. Just like gambling, a lot of people take it way too serious, and I enjoy just putting the bet down, and then my mind goes somewhere else. Usually, I might like cheer the person on or the horse on, but my mind doesn't go if I win or lose, it's the end of the day. And a lot of people don't play that way, right? A lot of people, it's very serious. Um, and that's great. I mean, you got to have something serious in your life as well as something you enjoy. But no, I mean, it's just, but so tell us how Hong Kong is doing right now. What's the big word in Hong Kong?
Hong Kong is there's trouble in Hong Kong, but not because of coronavirus. It's because of the recent changes in the law and a lot of fear. The ordinary fellow like me, living in the city, I live in a suburb. I haven't seen anything. I've seen a police presence a little while, a few days ago. But the rest of the trouble that I see is on the news. I don't see it in my house. So I don't know where this will go, but I'm hoping that whatever it is, those who seek to control and those who are not wanting to be controlled come to some sensible compromise before lives are lost. So far, it's only been arrests, but no lives lost, luckily.
What is the contention at this point? I mean, you're talking about the fear, but what is the exact contention? I mean, I'm the same way. I'm so buffered from all of the angst and contention that, and I know it exists, and that's why I just don't go anywhere. And everybody thinks, oh, well, you're living in fear. No, no, I am living for a reason. But I'm living it with facts, right? The fact is, if I go out there, there's a lot of contention. Somebody's going to throw a punch. Somebody's going to, and we see it right now, like in Walmart, where, the security guard tackled the woman for not wearing a mask. And we've seen the fear on the streets in Minneapolis, where the police apparently took down an individual and killed him. And ruthlessly, according to videos, right? According to the videos, ruthlessly killed this individual. So, what is the contention?
In Hong Kong, from what I understand, is that normally, as per the 2047 deadline or period, there was a basic law which was agreed upon by the British government and the Chinese government that was to be untouched unless at least till 2047. Last year, because of the other law which said that you could be sort of sent to mainland China for if there was a case against you, there was an extradition bill which was then shelved. But since then, the distrust between the government and the people has sort of exacerbated. And now what Beijing has done is said that there's going to be no law being passed by the Legislative Council of Hong Kong, because that seems to evoke a lot of protests. So instead of that, we'll pass a law in the Chinese parliament, and because we have the wherewithal to enforce it, we will make sure that nobody can abuse the Chinese national anthem or the Chinese flag or any symbol of China's statehood, which in itself has nothing wrong. But because of the fear that has sort of affected the relationship between the government, the local government, and the people, that's why there's been all this protest. I don't know, and my wife has specifically asked me not to get involved.
No, we don't want to get involved, but just I don't want to get involved either. Pure discussion and just understanding the reasonable realities of both sides. I always tell people there are usually three sides to every contention point, right? There's the other side, and the truth.
That's true.
And eventually when you work out both sides of the story without this, right? If you should sit there and but a lot of people can't. Just like in our United States, we can't. You got the red and the blue. What happened to the red, white, and blue? This is why I ask everybody. You got the red side and the blue side. Now we're talking about the red states and the blue states. And all the blue states are testing positive with more positive. So apparently it's the governor's fault of all the blue states. And I'm like, well, perhaps we're testing more positive in the blue states because they're doing more tests, right? So
that is a problem with many countries, even in India. You have basically in India, the coronavirus came in through the airports, and every state with an airport, a significant airport, is hard hit. And the reaction of the government with shutting down the country with just 4 hours notice has caused untold misery for millions.
Yeah.
Not hundreds of thousands, but millions. Children have died, older people have died, because they've all been forced to go walking thousands of kilometers because he shut down the trains, he shut down the planes, he shut down the buses, and yet he sent the national carrier to several countries to bring back middle class and upper middle class people free of cost to India. So this is the problem of a very strong prime minister, but who is also a very he hasn't thought things through. It's a one-man band, So I don't question his motives. I only question his administrative capability. Unfortunately, I think that he's not only is he, he shouldn't be thinking about the detail. They should be, there are the executive who are supposed to work this out and do it, but he's got to be willing to listen to the executive. In India, he doesn't. So that is one of the things which is very unfortunate. That's caused more deaths than the virus.
Well, and in reality, then that is the effect of the virus, right? The cause and the effect is, and this is what I was trying to tell people: the COVID crisis, is it real? The crisis is, all right. The crisis is very, very real. And, the point wasn't about, it is about how many people it can kill. But the point was about the spreadability and containment, right? And that's what should have been considered from day one. There were pandemic teams around for years. Where are they? Why haven't I heard one pandemic team name? I haven't heard one pandemic team name anywhere. All I've heard is Trump did this and the governor's fault. That's all I've heard in our country. I have not heard, and Fauci, right? They put Fauci up at the top, but not before the incident happened. And one of the things I keep hearing, which has become a very big red flag to me, is they keep saying that the president didn't have all of the information from WHO or CDC. Yet the president keeps saying they predicted worse was going to happen, and look, it didn't. And I'm like, who predicted worse? Where's that documentation? Because he keeps saying they were protecting, hundreds of thousands of people, and actually 100,000 people did happen. All right, 100,000 deaths did happen here in the U.S., and it will get worse. Nick and I actually did that calculation, and we did it with pure realistic data and numbers, and we didn't even have all of the data. But realistically, we put our brains together and talked about it and said, this is probably what's going to be the outcome, because that's the kind of people, we're math people, we're business people. We're not scientists. If I'd had the real actual how many people were sent test kits, I probably could have done a better accurate, and so could have Nick, a better accurate count. But I want to know, because the president keeps saying, they kept predicting and saying, well, that tells me he did have data before this hit. That tells me he did have results predicted to him before this hit. That tells me he had a lot of information.
With President Trump and Mr. Bolsonaro, these are two people who, in any other position, would have been convicted of manslaughter. They would have been convicted of manslaughter. I wouldn't say murder, because there's no intent, but it's just foolishness. I would say with Trump and Bolsonaro, they should be convicted of manslaughter. With Mr. Modi, I wouldn't say that. He is not. He did not have that kind of warning, and even if he did, I would say that he did what he thought was best. And with every intent of keeping India safe. What has happened is that people who should have advised him that, look, you need to give people time to react. You need to give people time to implement your thing, not just shut down the country in 4 hours. What has happened is a huge exodus has happened from the cities to the villages. And that is exactly what he was trying to prevent. Mr. Modi's motives were pure, but his implementation we didn't realize it at the time, but because India is like a huge mega jumbo jet, you can't just do loop the loop with it. You have to go slow, move it in a certain pace. Now, what has happened is, unfortunately, and he will be blamed for something which he really didn't want to happen. I would say that the Indian Administrative Service failed. They failed.
Well, I think several things failed. I think because we're seeing such a high death rate, we're still seeing the infectious rate climb. Is this a failure of our government? I think it's a failure of people turning their head and not listening to the advice of the medical people that probably seen this come. Is it a failure of transparency? Yes, it is.
Yes, there is a failure of transparency.
We know, it is public knowledge, that the CDC had classified documentation. No health organization that represents the public should contain classified data. Period. Never. Okay, if you're the War Department, fine. Classified data all you want. Okay, but a health organization designed for public information, the WHO, NFID, CDC, no classified information ever.
I agree.
Intellectual property. They should never, ever be able to own intellectual property. And that would have prevented this, I think, catastrophe, because everybody was trying to protect what they considered their own intellectual property. They wanted to be the ones who owned the information, and that can't happen in a public health information organization. And good morning, Jim.
Hello, Jim.
Hi, Jim. Good morning.
Good morning.
Jim walked in on a snake pit of conversation. Because
I'm at home then.
Freedom of speech here, and to a point, right? We want to be facts and data. but we want to represent the facts and data in such a manner that it's like we wonder what happened. We can't go backwards, and this is a conversation we had with Henning. We can't go backwards. How do we go forward, right? But should people be accountable? Yes, I think there's a lot of people who should be accountable, and we need to begin by addressing the government officials who are selling off their stock before we shut down. I think every one of those should be addressed and held accountable. Should we be held somebody be held accountable for the amount of deaths that we have had? I think that there is an accountable point. What was the intent? And you know, Rakesh, you brought this up. Intent can be and held accountable for can be many things. It could be, I made this choice to kill all these people because of the benefit or the loss of the gain in economics, right? So, but you're still killing people for money. I don't give a dang what you said. So, is there a way to prevent it and still continue making money? And Iceland has shown proof that there was. Even though they're a smaller country, they have shown that there was a potential way. But go ahead, Jim.
I was just going to say, I might be willing to die for some things, but I'm not willing to die for the Dow. And the Dow seems to be our focus. You know, as long as the stock market is going up, everything is fine and dandy. And that is not true. And we have sacrificed our own health for the GDP, or not even the GDP, because that's going down. It's the stock market that seems to be driving our administration. And I don't think that that is the thing to be focusing on when people are dying.
Well, and I agree with you. And I also found it very odd. And again, you know, if you want to take a look at facts, and I hope people will be doing this and doing it logically and honestly. But, you know, Giuliani went and purchased $2 million of hydroxyquine stock in February while the president was still dragging his feet. Then out of the blue, the president makes him his science advisor. And these are public facts. This is not us making this up. These are public known facts. In 2018, hydroxyquine companies paid President Trump's attorney almost $2 million to endorse them, to lobby for them. This is public fact. This isn't just Google. This is public court facts. So, you know, and then, you know, the president shuts the country down. A week later, hydroxyquine is our savior. But it was no more the savior than any other respiratory type, infection type treatment. It was no different than any other treatment out there. And why people didn't go look at all of the respiratory treatments, why did we make this harder and more difficult than any other respiratory disease? I don't know. Why did it become something that was so way up here as opposed to something right at your nose, like we talked about with Dr. David Moskowitz, who is, you know, a medical physician from Harvard, who is doing a paper on this. And he said, you know, he just treated his patients with asthma medications, or all the other doctors, like Dr. Arthur. We just did symptomatic treatments, and, you know, all of his patients have survived as well. So why did we make it more than it was? Why did it have to be hydroxyquine or Revestropur, which is what other politicians invested in just before the pandemic? And why are they investing in all of these things before the pandemic? I just, you know, and
insider trading.
Exactly, insider trading. And so, and to me, the risk of delay, right? The point of all of the delay. And again, as I mentioned, you know, the president kept saying, well, we haven't reached the crazy quote that they said was going to die. We didn't reach those numbers. So he did have information prior to the shutdown. He had a lot of information, and his choice was based on the Dow. His choice was based on the economics and of popularity. Because if he had shut down and got containment of this and nobody died, then nobody would have believed and thought that there was a problem. So it was a popularity decision as well. So, and it happens in our state all the time. Every time the governor calls a state of an emergency to pre-shut down before a storm, and the storm doesn't hit, everybody goes, "Oh, he was crazy." And then the next time when he doesn't shut down, and we've got floods and people dying,
The governor's fault.
why didn't the governor shut down? I would never be a governor, ever be a governor, because it's always the governor's fault. Now, in our country, the president has and the people are putting the blame on the governors for all the deaths.
It's unbelievable. And
They're
Kimberly,
not putting the blame on the mess that started up here that they were left. So here's what happened. The mess started. It's kind of like when somebody spills milk, right? And now they got to clean it up. And if they don't clean it up right, they're to blame. So it's, to me, it's not the governor's fault. It was the original leader's fault.
I agree.
And then your people have to clean up the mess behind you. And they're each deciding, well, we're going to clean it up a little different based on the situation we have in our state. The other problem I have is everybody's blaming Cuomo and some of the other governors for sending elderly people back to the rest home with COVID, right? They tested positive for COVID at the hospital, but the hospitals could not have them all. Where were they supposed to send them? So Cuomo and some of the other governors made a humane choice for the elderly and said that no home could reject them because they had no other place to send them. But that was because our leader didn't say, let's establish pandemic centers where we can send everyone. So we're not sending somebody from the hospital to a street.
We could have sent them to Trump hotels.
Well, thank you. But see, that would have been the problem if he designated all hotels to be pandemic centers. His hotels would have been one of those. But the thing is that would have been the smart thing to do because the hotels had to close down. And then they were the biggest criers of, we have, no means of income. Well, we could have provided them tax reductions. There's a thing called eminent domain in this country. When an emergency situation happens, they can seize those properties and put them to work. But why not give them money back for it? We were sending out stimulus checks, right? But all of these were ideas I was coming up with long before the situation came about. We should take a look at the hotels. Why aren't we doing this? And we even had experts on our show go, you're right. Why aren't we talking about that? And this was 2 months ago, not today. I'm not looking at this 50-50 backwards. I'm looking at, these were conversations that, they should have been having, but they weren't. They were worried about the Dow, the death of Dow. Death of
Okay. Trump has some of his properties, hotels, golf courses in Ireland and Scotland. And he had the nerve to apply to governments of these countries for help with his hotels and properties. They replied to him that they need to see his income tax returns to see if he's qualified for help.
I have a close friend who's struggling for his life because of COVID. He was asymptomatic completely. He hardly moved out. He was a family friend, about 80 years old. He's in a coma now because the clots that formed in his lung moved into his brain, and he collapsed in a coma. So this is such a dangerous disease. He was a totally healthy man.
Yes.
And, he is struggling.
Did any of y'all read the article that I sent around back in, I think it was the end of February when I decided to shut down? And it was, I think, a basis from National Geographic, but actually written from people at Johns Hopkins. But it talked about the damages that it caused to the lungs, and then it would create, once it found an opening, it would create a blood storm into the human body.
Yes.
If your liver was not capable of dealing with it, then it would flush into the rest of your organs, and the blood storm that it would cause, they called it a blood storm, and damages that it would cause to the other organs could kill you. Could kill you. Odds are would kill you. So, and
Kimberly, If I may, Alexander and I had the distinct pleasure of interviewing Irina Krush, who is the many-time U.S. Women's Champion, and she's perfectly healthy, gets the COVID virus, and she described it as having a bus on her chest, and her saving grace was what she called golden milk. It's basically turmeric, and I think the Trump family did not own any stock in turmeric.
There you go. So, what's funny is that you say that. It's not really funny, but Dr. David Monkowitz was pretty much saying the same thing. We're treating the patients with our everyday medications. It just didn't happen to be what they were invested in, right? But he can't say too much because he is a doctor at Harvard and he doesn't want to lose his credentials and his funding for paper writings and stuff like that. But again, queer just like
punitive action against him. Are you suggesting that the administration would take punitive action against someone telling the truth?
Oh, it's easy to take action against somebody and not, right? All they have to do is.
Yep. We've seen that.
Doctor Who. So it's not punitive damage, punitive action as in suing or anything other than just cutting the funds stop. And we see this with Trump, he will all of a sudden say, we're going to give more money to the drug for diabetes, right? We're going to reduce the cost to why not reduce the cost of all the medications? Why are we just doing one? We're going to do more funding for this disease. Why just that disease? Why not all of the other aspects that are reflected? Why not just one big medical foundation investment for all of the diseases and all of the medications? Why not get rid of insurance companies completely and have a Bitcoin paying blockchain system that the doctors get paid every time you see them? And medication is provided on an as needed basis. So we reduce the opioid overdose rates and abusive rates. And we reduce all of this stuff because we're able to manage it better. But the thing is we don't, because that's not what they're invested in. And when Nick and I started this TV show, and I know I don't want to upset Nick in any way or hurt his business in any way, but one of the things I learned is the top 1% is not there for your benefit, nor is the government. Okay, they're there for their own benefit. They're rules. They make the rules. And this is what I tell people: millions and billions of people, only less than 1% tell us what to do. Think about it. In some places, you only have one ruler, right? In our country, it's about what is it? About 20,000 people decide what we do by rules and laws. Do you think they're making those laws to benefit you? No, absolutely not. I've just recently been reviewing some laws, and this is what I tell people, because everybody was going, look who just got a raise, look who just voted for themselves a raise. Well, they were all there, you idiots. It wasn't just Democrat, it wasn't just Republican. That's one day they don't ever miss. Everyone is there that day. There is no absentee vote on that day. Okay. Every senator, every congressman is there on that day. In fact, if you want to get a bill pushed, go that day. Plan it so your bill is on the day they vote for their raises. But everybody goes, oh, Senator so-and-so, look, he just got a $71,000 raise. Yeah, they all did. Let's don't be one-sided here. If you're going to preach something, preach both sides of the story so that the third side can come out. And I get very frustrated. And everybody thinks I preach one-sided, but actually, if you look at my post, there's data. There's data, and I'm saying show data that show otherwise. Most of my post is not. It looks one-sided, but that's because people don't like the story it tells. But I try to show the data that exists. Okay, here's the other thing: the data that exists. I can't make up data. I'm not going to, right? That wouldn't be right. I could sit there and go, I think there's 200,000 tests being done today. I can't do that. I can say that the report showed 200,000 tests are being done today. The math will show this. So, people do this based on this, not even this. Okay. And as an engineer, this is where this pin came from when I was an engineer. As an engineer, we had to show data. We couldn't just out of the blue show something else. What happened? We got a interesting thing just pop up here that doesn't belong to us. Interesting.
One quick question. When they voted to get themselves a raise of $71,000, why they wouldn't go for, say, $121,000? Why 71?
Because they cap and they come up with a formula. I've never sat in on their meetings, but they come up with a formula that they feel like is acceptable to them and acceptable to the public. And who knows what it's based on.
The public is still unhappy. They're still criticizing 71,000. So if public would criticize probably even $41,000. So you might, for the same money and the same time spend, bought it yourself 121,000 and say that actually they were thinking about 161,000, but they settled for 121 because it's a tough times, because they understand that the country is not doing so well. So let's cap it at 121,000, not 161, not 255,000, but only lousy $121,000. That's it.
Yeah.
Look at what we've done for you.
They're saving money.
You're saving money. And here, $71,000, and they're being criticized left and right. That's unfair. That's really unfair.
They don't have the salesman mentality. You offer this and then settle for that. And it's just, I think you're onto something, Alexander.
I think, and I'm sorry I missed that, but I think every time I'm hitting a chord with somebody, they knock me out. So, Ankit has noticed it. Ankit, haven't you noticed this? Every time, like I am laying.
It happens several times.
Yeah.
Kim, you mentioned before that you have blue states and red states, and they're so much at war with each other and so on. Look, I'm here long enough to remember the presidency of Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, both Bushes, and Clinton and Obama, and maybe I missed something. Explain to me one thing. Why it never happened before, only now, with Trump, of course?
We can't. I don't know. That's a good question. A lot of things happen every administration. Clinton had their weirdness, and I would say
the blue dress. We all know that,
right? I don't know.
But that's not the same magnitude, and I think that the magnitude of our problems today are so magnified is because of the man in the office. And I think that it's a historical significance. I don't think we've ever had someone so outrageous and un-American, in my view. And in all of this, he reacts with denial, anger, and he just blames people. There's no hint of constructivity in this man that I can see or discern. And Kimberly, I don't know about anyone else, but I would vote for you for governor.
Well, thank you, but I would never run for governor because governors get blamed for everything.
Data is what we need.
Mayor, I would probably do because you can do a lot of good for the people as a mayor with minimal, and I'm not saying liability, but minimal hate being thrown at you. But I think a mayor, if I look at politics, I like being able to just look at it, analyze it, and say, this is what we need to do. We don't need a president anymore. I think we're 19th century politics need to go to the side. And I think we need to start looking futuristic, just like they expect our technology or medical field to grow and expand and make progress. why not? Why do we have to keep having this? You know, everybody said, well, this is how we're free. No, we're not free. We're not free. We haven't been free for a long time. And
the first thing we can scrap is the Electoral College.
well,
Yeah.
I wanted to do that a long time ago. Where did that come from? How is that fair? How is that even a voice?
That was a compromise in order to get the southern states to go along with it, and when the country started. And it's a compromise that made sense at the time and has made less and less sense as time goes on.
Well, because it's not a voice. It's not the true voice. And, you know, I hate the primaries. And I say this, I'm a bird right now, tweet, tweet, tweet. But during the primaries, by the time it gets to me, there's nobody left to vote for.
I agree.
It's all crap. The only people who get a real right to a voice are the people at the beginning of the primaries. Why can't the primaries be one day, same day? We vote for, out of the 10 people, the one person we want. And all of our voice counts. And I would wonder, I really wonder, how would the primaries have turned out the last time if it had been that way? Because the only people who can survive the primaries are the people with money.
Absolutely. And I live in California, so my vote hasn't counted in a long time.
So you see, and I live in North Carolina, and by the time they get here, there's nobody left. So, you know, it just, to me, I think the Electoral College vote I think the whole system needs to be scrapped. And I think it's going to take a powerful voice. The politicians are not going to do this. They are like Blackbeard. Okay, do you know the real story of Blackbeard?
Well, I don't know the real story. No.
Well, you might. So it's called Blackbeard sympathizers, right? And the reason is Blackbeard did do some very horrible, horrific things. Okay, but he didn't grow up that way. All right, and when he first got into being a pirate, he wasn't a pirate. All right, they served the queen. They were ships that served the queen. And this is how they grew up to make their money, right, for their retirement. So you start out as a swashbucket kid, very young, right, 10 years old, and you grow up to become captain of the ship or one of the workers. But no matter what. So the thing about them is everything they did was extremely legal and extremely supported by the queen. They got to keep the money they took from the ships that they acquisitioned. So they would acquisition ships.
The Spanish. Steal from the Spanish, give to the English.
Right. So all of this was very, very legal until they shook hands and said, we're not going to fight anymore. Well, Blackbeard at that point was ready. He was captain. He made captain. And he was like, no. And she goes, no, you can't take from them anymore. Well, where's my money? That's not my problem. This is great. Not my problem. Sorry. Your days of retirement have ended. Okay. This is your life now. You can serve me and get paid pennies for the rest of your life. Now, all the people before him retired what? Extremely wealthy. They stashed their money everywhere in the world. Let me tell you. Everywhere, in treasure chest, everywhere in the world. And the reason why I know that is one of the major ports is right here in North Carolina. And that's where the Queen Anne went down. That's where his ship went down, and that's where he was beheaded and stuff like that. And we just raised the ship a few years ago. So so that's the situation you have is you've got the parliaments or the leaders who are like, this is the way we're going to do things. We don't care what the impact is to you.
So true.
Okay. And so you're not the Senate, and then they're not going to give up their wealth. They worked too hard to get there. So they're making the laws, and they're not going to make the laws so that they cannot retire wealthy. All right.
The system.
Right. So they are built into the system. They are what Blackbeard was. And then all of a sudden his system got cut. So he
Legal,
became the
and
pirate.
then he became illegal.
Right. So what we could do is tell all the senators that are there, you know what, you worked really hard to get here. Thank you very much. Here's a really nice retirement package for you. Go away. We are going to operate the world, not just the country, but we're going to operate under a real democratic system. And it's going to be like a company, just like you would operate a company. And we're going to elect CEOs and presidents and general managers and vice presidents. And we're going to operate this way. And we're going to unite the states. They are not going to operate as 50 different entities with 50 different laws so that you don't understand what you're doing and only lawyers make money. The people, the laws are so confusing. The laws should not be so confusing that the average person can't go in and represent themselves. No law, not especially the tax law. But right now, the laws are so confusing, you can't go in and represent yourself. You can't. And in fact, if you do, usually the lawyer and the judge have breakfast and lunch together every day. So if you go in and represent yourself, the lawyer and judge are going to gang up against you. They will. I've seen it happen. Actually,
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen. How is that for the people? How is that by the people? How is that even freedom? It's not. We have been fooled and fooled ourselves to believe it's freedom because we're just busy working every day and we don't want to deal with it until it impacts us. Every time I get a phone call for help, it's from people who turn their head to me when I ask them, hey, let's work together to make this change. And they don't want to make that change until they are impacted by it. Right?
So, Kim, there is one more scenario to it. It might be, I'm trying to divert the conversation, but what's happening is that in all the countries, they have a capital city, and that capital city is managed by the federal government as well as the city government or the state government. And the clashes between them because who will control it and who will do the development work and things like that. That's happening. I'm not sure about Washington, but that's happening in Delhi, that's happening in France, that's happening in London, that's happening everywhere. And that means we have two governments, but no one is ready to accountable and no one is ready to do the right job. And those people who are living in those cities, they are struggling and they are suffering.
Although they are how to work with it's fun though for heavy
they are not happy living in that capital because they're not getting the right benefits what you get from all other state governments or central governments. And that is also key of concern because we might have a mayor, we might have a governor, we might have a chief minister, we might have a president. But when you talk about a capital of any country, if you ask a general public, they're not happy because they're not getting the right benefits. It's just that to say everyone that we are living in the best city or best state of that particular country, but the things are not as easy or as cool for them, and there are no benefits.
Well, and you know what's embarrassing is how many people still support Trump, no matter how rude or unethical and lack of integrity he has. And the big news story is the Twitter, right? He's going to sue Twitter. I told Nick he should sue Facebook for the same thing. But he's going to sue Twitter because Twitter did a fact check on him and took something down. Boo-hoo. Has anybody ever actually gone out and seen how many times he Twitters a day?
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
So for the amount of Twittering that he has done, I think we really could have had a real leader doing something. And I don't know why the opposing parties don't campaign on that. But
and when you talk about Twitter, Trump's today's tweet is about China, and he says that a very bad gift from China. That was a tweet all about coronavirus.
So right, but hear me out on this. Trump has used Twitter to be really rude to people. And one of the most depressing things to me was during this pandemic situation when Cuomo asked for more PPE equipment for his state. And Trump Twittered, I've given you this, I've given you that. What more do you want? Roses? I mean, so a real leader to me wouldn't Twittered an attitude. A real leader would have picked up the phone, called a medical center where they proclaim they have too much and said, can you ship this to Cuomo? they need it. A real leader would have done that.
Yeah.
But here's what's sad. Here's what's sick. There are so many Trump fans in this country. They thought that was awesome. They thought that was funny and great. In fact, they cheered him on to do more. That's how pathetic. But here's what's really bothered me. He Twittered, and of course everybody probably knows this by now. Twittered an accusation against Joe Scarborough for the death of his wife. Are you familiar with this, Jim?
Yes, and
it's raised its ugly head again, and he keeps twittering it. But the thing is Twitter won't take it down. The person he's accusing didn't kill her.
Of course not. He was 800 miles away.
My husband is saying, please stop this man from twittering these things about my wife. Okay, it's not even about the husband. He's twittering about her employer. He said, please, we don't accuse the employer of it. We want this to go away. Please don't use my wife in your Twitters. So to me, I would just sue Trump at this point for defamation of my deceased spouse's name. But I don't know if anybody will do that. But if it were,
from Mueller's report, that sitting president cannot be convicted, but Trump went much farther than that. Now it seems to me that sitting president cannot be even investigated, never mind convicted, even investigated. So he can do anything what he wants. Now, don't forget, a few weeks ago, I mentioned that the Trump foremost is an entertainer. He is playing.
Exactly, he's an entertainer. Thank you.
He's using people's disdain for politics in general. So he's saying, okay, you know what? At the end of the day, all people hate all politicians anyway. But at least I'm entertaining people. I'm giving them fun. I'm good to people. Let them. Yeah, some people are offended, but some people are cheering. So all of them are being entertained. Those who love me, those who hate me, everybody is entertained. We live a great false life. Now, coronavirus, of course, twisted all that. However, with his use of Twitter, you see what he's doing essentially. Like before, if a politician wanted to address the public, he would have to go through TV channel, newspaper, magazine, or something like this. Trump developed, his ingenuity, that he's developed a way to communicate to people by passing all the traditional media outlets, whether it's newspaper or television stations or radio stations. So he is now going above all that directly to people who either hate him or love him or whatever other reasons. So there is a phenomenon of Trump. It's horrible for America. It has to be cut. But you see, the problem is that Trump knows that if he will lose election, especially against Biden, he will be put in jail very shortly after he loses election. So he will fight with all his resources, all his life, and he is going to do anything possible, impossible, legal, illegal means to not to lose this election. That's the problem.
No, and I agree, and I think you couldn't have hit the nail on the head better. That he is more about entertainment. In other countries, I don't think the leaders who have made these choices, they're about entertainment. It might be about power. It might be about other things. Whatever their conflict are, it definitely has nothing to do with popularity votes and things like that. I am just embarrassed that we not only have a leader that utilizes Twitter like a child, but that the people who support him not only think it's funny the way he destroys people's lives with it, but that they still support him. They still think he's great. So it's kind of disappointing to me. I hope that our country rises above this and elects a man or a woman with integrity. I hope that we start focusing on integrity, but we kind of lost integrity as a country when we came out with reality TV shows. I'm sorry, I hate saying this, but those reality TV shows truly, I think, destroyed us. I hope other countries don't show them in their country, but our integrity level dropped, as well as our intelligence level. I think when your integrity level drops, your intelligence levels drops too. But it's disappointing to see a tortured family. All of this happened in 2001. That Trump still decides to torture this family with the death of this woman. And I don't know what happened in her death. I just know what the reports say. But if the family is saying the matter has been investigated, nobody was at blame, please stop bringing this up. I think even though they say the president cannot be sued, a lot of people don't know that there is enough bend to the law that you can sue the person for defamation of character.
Well, Kimberly, the problem is that our Justice Department is run now by Trump's personal attorney. So, and the second problem is, even before he was president, he was nearly immune because he hired a cache of lawyers, so that and he paid them. And if I was Trump, the way I would do it is, if I was paying these guys to handle lawsuits for me, if they were only handling 5, I was getting gypped. So I wanted them handling 50 or 100. I sue you, you sue me, I'll sue you back. And, it just cost me the same. But the people that are trying to raise these lawsuits, it takes money to prosecute these lawsuits. You have to hire lawyers. And the people, the labor that he ripped off time and time after time, if they tried to sue for their back wages that Trump did not pay them for the labor they provided, it would cost them more than it was worth. And Trump would just sit there and laugh. I got my lawyers, sue me.
And the thing is that's what we have to look at is that's what he has done his whole career. I've got a few books on it here. And I didn't buy the books because I didn't like Trump. I bought the books because I was curious about how is somebody successful, right?
Yes.
And welcome, Lynn. How are you doing this fine, beautiful Thursday?
Well, I hope it's fine and beautiful down in North Carolina or in California or Toronto or in India, because it's not here. Or I guess Rakesh, you're in Hong Kong. So anyway, I guess we're getting the remnants of is it called Bertha, which is coming up the East Coast?
Oh.
Yeah, we've had our share of hurricanes, and very, very early into the year. Hurricane season usually isn't until August, September, October.
Right.
And, maybe we can get somebody on from NOAA to explain what has been the big change in our environment to create such a shift. So that's a big shift. That's not like a couple of weeks. That's like a couple of months.
It is. And the other thing is, it's been extremely windy this year.
Yes.
And so obviously something's happening, but I'll tell you what is happening: the dollar store.
There you go. Economics, everything. We always rely on being able to shop economically and save money and save time, which is money, and you save gas, which is money. And, this is interesting enough. David K. Johnston had brought this up. Take a look at your balance book since the lockdown at all the money you haven't spent doing the things that you were doing normally. And my reduction in gas is tremendous. Even though I didn't drive much to begin with, my reduction in gas use is huge. So, but let's talk about saving money. What's new in the dollar?
Right now there's really nothing new except the patches with the lidocaine. Did you get the patches?
I did, and I'm not wearing it yet, but I will very soon, and I'll report back to you on how effective it is. But I was so delighted that you were offering it, and I ordered it as soon as I saw it.
Yeah, I know you may need it for your golf, but I'm very concerned about you injuring yourself playing chess.
Yeah,
So,
well,
you know,
the next matchups I'm going to play with Sasha, I'm going to definitely be wearing the patch.
and you'll have an advantage because if we want to ship to Canada, which we'd love to do, the problem is we're going to get stuck at Border Patrol. So you know, you keep those patches and work with those patches, and Sasha's not going to have a chance to work with any patches, so you have an advantage over him.
Right.
Rematch.
But you know, one of the things we do is for people who are injured or have issues, we make it very easy to find the online dollar store, the Shepherd Family online dollar store. All you have to do is go to ibm.tv, click on the big green button. It's actually, if it's on your phone, it takes up the whole phone. Click on that big green button, and it's going to take you straight to the dollar store. And when you get to the dollar store, you can shop around like I do and find all of the great and wonderful, amazing products that might exist for even higher prices in other stores, which I have been, thanks to this lockdown, I have discovered a lot of my products that I've been paying $20 for or even $60 on Amazon. It's only, $2 to $4 here on the dollar store. And if I buy $25 worth of stuff, it's free shipping. So, I mean, you can't beat that. And that's money smart. That is being money smart.
Which brings us to why we're here on IBM.TV, because we are supporting the mission of Money Masters PBS, which owns IBM.TV. And we really believe in financial education, financial sufficiency, reducing the gap between poverty and financial sufficiency. And so half of the profit that we get is being donated directly to Money Masters PBS, because we really believe in the mission. And in a day like today, even though this was originally organized to try and help bring people out of poverty through financial education, the truth of the matter is, and that was for young people, a lot of the older people need it as well, because we're all of a sudden we're finding that older people who haven't managed their money properly now, because of what's happening with the economy, are getting stuck. So at least they can save some money by shopping on the dollar store, and then they can learn how to play chess, because it only costs $19.95 to buy a chess set. That's what Sasha said last week. So,
well, Lynn, I must tell you that it was the easiest thing in the world for me to order it, and I actually got to like $21.99 or something like that. And then I had to buy something else to get that $25 free shipping. So you got a good strategy there.
Well, it is a good strategy, Jim. And the other thing is that $25, you could have also applied immediately the $5 discount you got right away. So that actually it was really only costing you $20 and you still got free delivery. So there you go. So we have a rewards program. And there we go. We have medical masks, disposable medical masks. So you ordered some. Well, there you go. So did I. Actually, I'm hoping they'll be there when I go to the post office today. The one thing that Kimberly didn't necessarily say is it is delivered directly to your door. That's if you have postal delivery right directly to your door. Unfortunately, I don't. So I have to go to the post office, but I'm looking for my package to be there. So there are some great things. If Dr. Yu rather was on today, he could talk about using soaps. So there's Dove soap, and Dove soap, because of the sudsing ability of Dove soap, cuts the outer layer of. There you go. Boy, Kimberly's way ahead of us today. So there you go. And I just bought a bunch more Dove soap just because. First of all, I've always used it and I really like it, but I like some of the different stuff that I don't find in the local stores that we have here on the dollar store site. But the sudsing takes the outer sheathing off of the virus, which helps then flush the virus. So that's another great thing.
Lynn,
As
can I ask
well.
you a question?
Go ahead.
If I'm playing Alexander in another match, should I put the CBD patch on my head? That might.
Your
You
head.
think it would help me think?
It might. Then what I would do probably is use two patches, one on your arm and one on your head. Okay. Okay.
I need an edge, Lynn. I need something.
Yeah. Look at Sasha smiles. He smiles like a man who has an
He's waiting
edge.
for me. He's just rubbing his hands.
That's what's so much fun about coming onto this show, because everybody is so nice, everybody's so pleasant to each other, and I really enjoy it. I really love the opportunity to meet people like Rakesh, who had to get off, like Ankit, who's having dinner right now, I think, and Kimberly, who's looking for the Munchkin napkins that she normally has on here. So anyway, oops, here we go. Munchkin napkins.
Minion.
Sorry, Minion
That's
napkins. There we go. Okay, here we go. She's in control.
There you go. You got it.
Yep. Just write the next one. I'll
She's
tell
a
you.
woman of many skills.
Yep.
Have napkins, why not have something that makes you smile?
Yeah.
And they got Minion mini things. And see, I'm just a big fan of Minions because I think they're goofy. And it's actually not really, you would think that would be my kind of movie. But I got stuck watching it on an airplane trip. It was the only movie that would play. And I was in a situation where I couldn't do any work on my computer. So I'm like, what the heck? I'll watch this stupid movie. And I kid you not, I felt sorry for the people around me because I was laughing so hard. I know I disturbed them all, but why not have something that makes you happy? And we talk about healing, right? And laughter is part of the healing as well as music. And everything else, and you've got surgical masks on here. Eventually, your supplies kind of change consistently to address the times in need, which I think is just very, very impressive. So, and you're delivering during this time. You were still delivering, whereas Amazon was still struggling, but you were still delivering. And again, I find it interesting that a lot of the makeup products, and I'm not talking about just the makeup itself because you don't carry the makeup, but makeup products that I use are cosmetic stuff for facial maintenance, like masks and line removers. All of these things that we have to buy at the counter or on Amazon for a lot of money, and you've got them for $2 to $4. It's the same product. This is it's the same freaking product. So why would I want to go buy something that costs me that much money and time when I can get it for this? And again, that's called being smart with your money. Once upon a time, there was a day when it was really cool to walk out the store with a Tommy Hilfiger bag, right? Or a name brand bag. But today, I would rather walk out the door or not even walk out the door. I'd rather just have the money in my pocket to go somewhere else and do something. So a lot of things can be done at the Family Dollar Store. The wonderful blessing about the Family Dollar Store is their heart, and they want to inspire financial fitness and financial literacy. And they're donating 50% of their earnings to us, which I think is very, very wonderful. It's a win-win-win, as Lynn says,
Yeah,
we all
lots of wins. Lots of wins.
But, one of the things we have done is on Mondays, we have Economic Day. We have some brilliant minds come in on I am so honored. I'm so blown away. Sometimes I have to knock my head against the wall. Do we really just talk to this person? um, David K. Johnson or Jeff Brown. Oh my God, the dean from University of Illinois, or Ankit, some of the people from India. My goodness, I mean, I had to knock my head against the wall when I realized we actually talked to the CMO of one of the hospitals there. I'm like, who gets
Wow.
this opportunity to have a conversation with these people?
Sure.
And it's a great learning platform as well. I mean, you know that whenever someone will join as an expert, they also learn a lot of things from different people, and that is what we are doing on IBM TV. It's a learning platform, it's a learning curve, and people sitting at home watching IBM TV and learning the best practices around the world. Some people learning chess, some people learning cricket, some people learning dollar store, some people learning businesses.
Cricket.
Cricket. Why not cricket? But you know what's interesting to me is, like, even yesterday, it was the coolest to watch two people in business meet on our show and go, wow, we can connect our resources. To watch that happen was amazing. I mean, we weren't there to make anything out of it, but here's what we're about. We're about sharing information, right? And then this is what I say, right or wrong. Even if you feel we're wrong, correct us, contact us. I have no problems coming forward and go, I made a mistake. You know, a lot of the TV networks won't do that. They will not do that. But I have no problems coming forward and going, you know what? That data was wrong. We had it wrong. And thank you for sharing with us. Because there's nothing, that's where you grow. Okay, that's where we grow, is when we can sit there and go, I made a mistake in this calculation. I have to fix it. So, but what was really cool was watching two people in business, two different interviews, and they happened to cross over. So one stayed a little longer, right? And which happens, that's what's great about our show too. We don't just say, okay, you got to go. We let people kind of make that choice, right? And these two minds connected. And we're like, wow, that to me was better than any fireworks show I've sat in on in years, just to watch. That was magic to me. That was.
Do you remember on Monday, David Jones couldn't answer my question? Do you remember that? I asked him, he was explaining about economic trends and history of American economy, and I asked him a question: what's the difference between recession and depression? And he started to say, okay, sometimes you get depression, sometimes you get recession. He said, no, that's not the right answer. The right answer is recession is when your neighbor is out of job. Depression is when you are out of job.
But that's what was great about it. And he busted out laughing. He thought, and I'll guarantee you, he probably used that in his next class.
Without credit.
And that's what kind of information is great about sharing here, is that we can also share our laughs. I kid you not, there are times when I'm done with the show, I can't wait to go run and share something with someone. Like, you won't believe the story I heard today, or the joke I heard, or the inspiration. So it's more than just that. But what's cool is the different people that come and share, because we get so much different input, and sometimes none of the inputs collaborate. But what's interesting is somehow or another they all collaborate to find a solution at the end, somewhere, right? So
I'll tell you. So today, one of our guests, Mariam, would be joining, but somehow there was some confusion and she couldn't join. So she just sent me a video to play on IBM TV, and she'll be joining us next week. So I'll just play the video, and then we can talk about it. And then Doug is already there waiting for us, so we just give 2 minutes for Doug, and then let me just play the video.
Okay.
And then.
Oh yeah, we got Doug here.
and she's a mountaineer. She is one. She's on the Guinness Book of Records, and she climbed all the big mountains around the world within a span of 1 year, which is not rare, and that's what she's all about. But she's from Morocco and she lives in Switzerland right now. Her name is Mariam Kriti. She will be joining us next week. Today, due to some reason, she was not able to join, but I'll share some of the photographs of her so that we'll have a better idea.
Well, Ankit, I must say, just that brief video reminded me that all of my risk taking is on the chessboard. And for
there's no way you would get me to do that.
No.
I mean, you of course, I will ask the question. So I'll ask Jim this question. If I gave you $10,000, would you jump out of an airplane?
Yes.
Without a parachute? Without a parachute? No, without a parachute. No.
No.
Well,
couldn't pay me enough.
If I gave you, even with $1 million?
With $1 million to jump out of an airplane, how high is the airplane?
Well, if I told you it was on the ground, would you do it?
Sure. See, you're talking to a chess player. I think 2 moves ahead at least.
So here's the thing: the only way you would have gotten me on that bridge, the only way, is if there was a net underneath that bridge, only about 2 or 3 feet below me, because
Yeah, and I'd have had to watch the guys tie the net at the end. I had to make sure the net was going to hold me.
Absolutely. Tested a few times.
Yes. Somebody else tested first.
Yeah. So.
No.
I would like to welcome Doug joining us today on Podcasters Thursday. Hi, Doug. How are you doing?
Great. How you guys doing?
Great.
All well, good. So, Doug, tell us about yourself. What do you do? Where are you from? And how are you doing in this COVID-19 situation?
Well, first of all, to follow up, somebody that's climbing mountains and jump out of airplane talks. We just watch movies, but during COVID-19, we're just hanging home, being safe. My wife's a teacher, so she's able to teach. My company's still working, so that's good. But yeah, so podcast-wise, my podcast is right here. The Good, the Bad, and the Sequel. It's a movie podcast where we talk movie sequels, but the way it's different is we don't just talk about any sequel. I have to personally interview someone that was involved in the sequel, whether on screen, behind camera. So I've talked to actors, directors, writers, producers, makeup artists, special effects, you name it. I've talked to them. So that's been a lot of fun. And then the next week we review that film. And it's pretty cool to hear the behind the scenes, how things came to be in the movie. So it's been a blast, and we've been doing it, now like 16 months almost, something like that. And it's mind-blowing how many people that I've talked to that I grew up idolizing.
Wow. So that's a lot of fun. I've had the pleasure of working on the sets with a couple of producers and when movies were being filmed, and we were actually watching the behind the scenes of one of the films the other day that hopefully this film will come out in the next year. Everybody's kind of struggling, but one of the things I've found very interesting about producers is they're very creative, right?
Oh, yeah.
But they're also creative with, how can I make this time work for me? So some of them are taking the time to actually do post-production work, even though maybe it wasn't ready. Let's go ahead and exercise what we can do. And the other thing I found was the amount of money spent on the sets. And this is something you probably learned when you're talking to the producers and the directors and the talent, is how much money is put into a movie.
I know.
It's insane. It's insane. I mean, right now, too, you got to feed the people that are there for the day, and you could be there for 2 or 3 days to film a 1-minute scene.
I know. It's wild.
So we're talking about on Celebrity Day, which you might like to come join us on Celebrity Day. Is we talk about the different impacts that technology has made, right, to kind of make it better and everything. And I just watched an interesting movie, probably not an A-list, but it's called Cosmos. And it was interesting that how they made it. It's probably one of the best made movies on low budget I have ever seen in my life.
Oh wow.
I mean, I kid you not. Like normally, they all hear me say when I watch some movies, I fall asleep. The only time I get to go to sleep, right? But I watched it and I kept thinking, well, I'm going to go to sleep in a minute. And I kept getting drawn in. And I was asking myself, because I've been on movies and Nick Palaveda and I, the producer of IBM TV, we look at everything that's filmed. How much is it costing per minute? And then our mind is sitting there doing that instead of enjoying the production. But I was watching this movie and I was totally blown away with, wow, how good is this just purely by the acting alone?
Yeah.
No special effects. I'm not going to blow it for you guys, but you'll get it the minute you turn it on. And I think it's free on Amazon.
Oh, sweet.
Is the whole scene is basically 3 men in a car. That's it.
That's cool.
A few times, but the amount of camera movement to the different scenes. But I truly believe, and we talk about this a lot, that it was the music that made the movie. But then I started watching. Why am I drawing in? It's not that these guys are over cute or attractive, or the conversation is your typical sci-fi. What drew me in, and it was a few things that we talked about in production recently, is how many times, how often you move the camera.
Yeah.
Even though the camera didn't move out of the car much, the camera moved about every 8 seconds.
Oh.
And it was the facial expressions of these actors. These were good actors. They're not even your A-list that you see. They were good. And I realized it was their facial expressions, the movement of the camera, who was going to say what next. But do me a favor and just watch the show. And maybe if you come back, granted, it's not your A-list. Wow.
Yeah. No, I like those movies because you can see people, like the biggest directors have to start somewhere. So if you go back on anyone's IMDb, their first few movies are cinematographers or cameramen. They work on movies that you or I would never hear of, but when you go to watch it, you're like visually blown away.
Yeah, I know. And you're right.
You lost me at no special effects.
Well, Jim fell out of love with me when he found out I didn't play chess.
Yeah, well, I'm falling back in love.
He's hard to please. I will tell you this. I don't know why he sticks around, but he is very, very hard to please. I love him for sticking around, though. But, Doug,
I wanted to ask you on the dollar store, because I'm a chess player, I get this frown line right between my eyebrows. And is there something that could help me with that, makeup-wise?
Brow line.
On the dollar store, what could help me with
that one's up to Kimberly, because I don't look at the makeup stuff.
Goodness line remover. So Doug, you're in during that time. We have a sponsor. It's called the online dollar store, and if you go to IBM.tv, but it's kind of similar to the brick and mortar, but you don't have to drive there, right?
Good.
So they don't carry perishables like the ice cream that they carry at the brick and mortar dollar store. But what's great about it is they have a lot of products that I even buy at the expensive cosmetic counters, like at the big department stores or on Amazon, that are costing $60. And it's the same volume, the same name brand for $2.
Oh, wow.
And I paid $60 over here for it, or I paid $20. And I'm like, I didn't have to drive. I didn't have to waste my time shopping. I just order it online, fraction of the cost. And if I order $25 worth, the shipping's free. But, the Family Dollar Store has been great to us because, they're donating 50% of their earnings to our financial literacy programs.
Oh, that's nice.
But Doug is here because he's got this great podcast, and you've been doing this 16 months.
Yeah, just about. I think we launched like March of last year. So
wow,
around there.
Just in time for the COVID. You kind of got your system rolling, and you understood. It takes a while to understand how to do a podcast, doesn't it?
Yeah, it takes time to do it, and you learn stuff, and then you want to go back and like remaster audio, which I've learned is I might notice it, or people that have a podcast that do editing, maybe they'll notice something like Jim with chess. I'm sure he would notice something that a chess player would notice, but maybe somebody watching wouldn't. So it's one of those things like I could play it for my wife and she'll be like, oh, you know what? It actually sounds exactly the same as the old one. But no, you're right. Like right now, it's actually helped me in a way. Obviously, it's during a crisis and there's so many people that are stepping up and helping out. But so many actors and people in Hollywood have time right now. So I was able to actually, right now, I have like 26 episodes in the can interview-wise, which is like almost a year's worth of content. So that's really good for me, just so I have to scramble because I haven't had to do that yet, luckily. So it's actually makes it easy as a burden. I can get ahead of the game.
So let's talk about this. You've got 26 in the can, and a lot of people don't understand this, but in the TV and media world, so apparently you've done some homework. Yeah. You need at least a season, what they call 1 year's worth in the can. It's 13 1-hour shows, or 26 half-hour shows. So you've already fulfilled that criteria to be on any major network. It costs, that's money, that's time, that's money, and that's time. I mean, but I got a big question for you. You had to start on your first. What was your first one? Who was your first one?
The first one. So I had this idea, and we wanted to do a movie podcast and talk about it and do behind the scenes. But I said I would only do it is if I can interview people. So I reached out to Jerry Minor. I reached out to a couple people because I got IMDb Pro and had all the agents and the emails that were on there. So I reached out to Jerry Minor, who was on SNL. He's in a ton of stuff. Oh, yeah, and he was in Son of the Mask, which was the first movie that we did, that horrible Jamie Kennedy sequel to The Mask, starring Jim Carrey. And so he said yes. We did a Zoom interview, the first one, and he was so cool. Made it so much easier for me. I wish I could do it again, so I'm sure I'd be better at it. But it was just, he was so cool. And then that opened the door to other people. And then the one that really changed it for me was I interviewed William Sadler. I interviewed him, and his agent was great. Got back to me the next day, and we chatted the day after I sent the email. And everybody I sent the emails to, they're like, wow, William Sadler talked to him. So I got to give this guy a chance. So that was really big for me.
No, and it makes a difference when you start getting the A-list people, because then the other A-list people will start lining up. Once you get that one, they do. It's kind of like when Nick and I, we first started our Money Masters TV show, and we had, people like John Fanning, the founder of Napster, but they're A-list corporate, right? A-list corporates, what I call A-list corporate celebrities, but millionaires and billionaires that know each other, that never give interviews, right? And when they saw that they were on our show, next thing you know, they're like, John Scully said he would be on our show. Then Jack Dorsey said he'd be on our show. Then, so you get these, and you go, wow, okay, all it took was one or two, and the word spread. And so, no, I get it. So you said something, you did something that a lot of people would not have done, and you went to the IMB Pro.
Yeah.
So that was a big investment on your part to take that step.
Yeah, it was actually the free trial. So I didn't really invest anything. So I had it free for 30 days. And I work from home. So I spent literally the whole 30 days picking out a bunch of movies that we wanted to do and emailing the top 7 people on it. Because I don't want to talk to people that I don't want to be phony. So I would never want to interview somebody and be like, I loved you in blank. And then they're like, oh yeah, what I do in blank? And then I feel like a phony. So I only interview people in the movies that I like actually loved, or I love their work. So I did that for like 30 days, then canceled it. And then from there, I was able to connect with a PR guy for a couple months. And then just on social media, like people check their social media, and the people I've gotten just from that are mind blowing.
Yeah, and this is what I tell people. When you hit somebody on social media, and majority of them are going to ignore you. It's the ones that come back and go, talk to my PR agent. They didn't tell you no, and they would have never handed you their PR agent.
Oh, I know.
So this is what I tell people. That's a big thing. That was not a no. That is because I'll do that. I'll reach out to certain people and I'll get just no reply whatsoever. And then all of a sudden I'll get the reply of contact my PR because they don't want to book over their PR. And I don't blame them, right?
Oh, yeah.
You get your hand slapped. Just like if I try to book something without Ankit, I got to send everything to Ankit. Otherwise,
Yeah.
what are you doing booking that? No, we got this. So I don't do that. Smart people let their smarter people do work for them. Ankit is not my PR either. He is the senior executive producer of this show. So, but you learn to let the
It's more about teamwork. It's all about teamwork. If we work
It's all
together,
about team. That's right. It's all about
and I'll tell
team.
you, I mean, sometimes PR would do a good job, but sometimes there's a communication gap, and the person can take a liberty and book their shows on their own. Because I've been dealing with a lot of PR people, and then they don't reply on time. But the person who wanted to be on the show, he's ready and he's available, but the PR guy is not available.
Yeah, so we
Oh,
run into
yeah.
So let's talk a little bit. Okay, so you got your 26
Yes,
in the can. You
Yeah.
got 26 in the can. You could generally take that to a major network, but where do you air most of your content right now?
Well, it's an audio podcast. So most of it is just on wherever you look. I have a website right here, sequelsonly.com, to make it a little bit easier. But we're on like all the major ones, Apple, Spotify, the whole gambit. But I am starting to do video interviews because I found, so I'm working with an actor right now, helping him do like a one-man show and put together like an audio memoir. His name's Larry Hankin. He's in a ton of stuff like Friends, Seinfeld. He was in Escape from Alcatraz. So he has a lot of stories, and he works them out with me every Saturday for like an hour and a half. And then I cut them up for him. But I accidentally shared it on Facebook because we were going to do it in this one group, but I shared it to my personal Facebook page. And just the engagement of the video, the visual, or it's just the audio. I still get people that listen to the audio, but from now on, I'm going to start asking to do the video. They say, yes, great. If not, it's always going to be available audio-wise, but just having that visual like really helps out. Even for our reviews, like we're doing video reviews and putting them on YouTube now because it's just that little bit extra.
No, we find the video, well, because we started out as a TV show.
Yeah.
And doing the TV show was costing around $1,000 a minute.
Wow.
Especially like what we started out doing the show for the quality of PBS, right? So, and that's a low end show, $1,000 a minute. You've got Shark Tank, which costs $1 million a minute.
Jesus.
I know, insane. Am I crazy? Right. So we were bleeding when the networks, every time they ask us to change something, when you work with the network station, you have to cut at precisely certain points for advertisements, for rap, for intro, for whatever, and things they want. So they would give us something ridiculous, like it's got to be 28 minutes and 42 seconds. That's very hard to cut an interview right at that precise. Literally, we would have a stopwatch, right? And then you try to stretch it so it doesn't sound funny, right? Or shrink it. It was becoming crazy. So one day after doing a lot of these shows and getting a run around with the networks of, well, we like you, but it was always we like, or we want you to do this. We want you to change this. And we were bleeding. And definitely not leading because we were more financial literacy, but we were interviewing the world's leading billionaires. And I used to think, why wouldn't anyone want to watch this, right? Yeah. I mean, big free story of how he became successful. But apparently we weren't cutting the mustard. But what was interesting is I finally looked at Nick and I go, I just don't want to do this anymore unless we own our own network. I am so sick and tired of the network, and they're bleeding. Like the networks are slowly shutting down, and I said, and they're not doing anything smart, right? They're not broadcasting globally smart. They're bleeding. They spent billions of dollars at each network station, and if you ever saw how PBS worked, a show doesn't just make all of the U.S. unless you're from BBC. So you have to knock on every door with your content to get it aired on every station. And people said, wow. It was a mess. So he goes, Kim, we can't do that. There's no way we can do that. You got to have millions and billions of dollars to broadcast. And I go, we'll figure it out. I have my own phone company. We'll figure this out. So So we did. We came up with Pod TV. Actually, Nick was the brainchild of that because he was doing go-to meetings. And he came back and he goes, why can't we do interviews like that? Because, basically, that's all you want is you want the really good headshots of the people when you're interviewing. Maybe a little pan around the room. And we tried, but we found out people were okay with just a good headshot of the interview. So then we canned the term Pod TV and we started working with it. And we were filming with IBM at the time. And things didn't go very forward with the film because they decided they didn't want to air it. They loved it, but they didn't want to air it. And that was, hundreds of thousands of dollars invested in content that sits on the shelf. So, but we legally acquired IBM TV to launch our network because it was a household name and we could push forward. And we just had an obligation. And the obligation was to keep it clean, green, and informational, educational, no profanity, no porn,
Good. Yeah.
Happy religion, nothing that leads or bleeds, right?
Yeah.
So, and I always ask them the question, I go, you guys are in the high bandwidth industry, because of high bandwidth, you've got a reason to sell. I came from that industry. I helped build the first fiber backbone in 93.
Oh, wow.
And it did, well, here's what happened. It didn't go anywhere because the government didn't want to invest in it. But I asked him, I said, what paid for the bandwidth? What do you think paid to grow the bandwidth to what we use today?
Paid? Probably the cable companies, no?
Mm-mm. No. So the content that supported and pushed the growth of the bandwidth that we use today is porn and gaming. It had nothing to do with
education,
information, medical, saving lives, none of that. Two content elements that push the bandwidth to what we have today is porn, and paid for it is porn and gaming. So
I would have said chess.
I would have 30 million chess. But let's talk about, okay, so you got 26 in the can. Are they all aired?
Are they all aired?
Yeah.
Oh no, they're just edited and ready to go. No, they're all those are audio ones.
Okay. What about some of your video ones? How many of those do you have?
I just started doing it. I really just started doing it. I just did one the other night with Vernon Wells, who was in Mad Max 2, Commando, Weird Science, and then he's been in a ton of other stuff behind the camera too. So I just did that Memorial Day night. So that'll be out soon, probably in the next few weeks. But I have some other ones like going right now that I'm in the works of scheduling a time. But yeah.
So are you doing a lot of post editing with them?
Not a lot. Really not. Really, if there's just background noise, I try to keep it as real as possible. But no, just any background noise I get out. But the video ones you can't do much with, even if there was like a big blip in it, because you don't want the video to cut while somebody's watching it. So for me, that makes it a lot easier. I have more time to do other stuff. But yeah.
Now we enjoy, so we started out on a Zoom platform, but the downloading and uploading, that was before they had the streaming, was costing us, and embedding was costing us 4 to 8 hours every day of downloading, uploading, and transferring. So we switched over to a different platform, which literally cut all that out. We still have a lot of work to do, right?
Yeah.
Just like the planning and everything. But we found, just to give you a little idea, after experimenting, that there are different platforms out there that make your life a whole lot easier. And if you're not too worried about a lot of the editing, which I highly recommend, kind of get away from that, because generally people are going to watch a show once and move to the next show.
Yeah.
It's rare that they're going to go back and watch and rewatch. So doing all that editing is just, to me, it's not worth it anymore. But so you're airing on where can people find your show?
Well, the easiest way is sequelsonly.com. That's where you could find everything's there. You could find all the reviews that we did by clicking on a movie poster of a movie that you're choosing, or I have the headshots of all the actors and people I interviewed and movies they worked on another page under interviews. But that's the easiest way to do it. Or just wherever you listen to podcasts, just search The Good, the Bad, and the Sequel, and you can see all the content and subscribe, because there's a lot of good interviews coming out. Sometimes I have too many in a week, And then it's like, wow, how am I going to get them out? But I have to pace myself, putting them out there to keep with my format.
Hey,
Right.
Doug, can I ask
Yeah.
a question?
What kind of feedback you get from your viewers?
Feedback wise, they like it. I have a bunch of random people I've never met before that message me on Twitter saying, hey, this was great. And then I'll post sometimes, hey, I'm interviewing blank next week. What kind of questions? And they send me questions. So that's pretty cool. And I just have fun with it. If it was something that was like laboring and every week I came out to like my garage where my studio is and I'm like, I have to do this, I wouldn't be doing it. So no matter what, it's a lot of fun. Everything else is just like, icing on a cake.
And
Hey,
you have viewers around the world or on a particular, like USA, you are targeting only US customers or things like that?
Well, everywhere. My podcast can be heard anywhere. So really anybody can listen to it. It'd be fun to chat with people overseas in different film industries. I just haven't done that yet, but that's a great idea. Jim, I think Jim has a question.
Yeah,
I'm recognized as a chess master around the world.
Chess
and I
player.
know, thanks to Ankit, I know a little bit about cricket now.
Nice.
But I know nothing about podcasting. And my beginner's question to you is, how are you interviewing people? Is it over the phone? And how do you broadcast the conversation that you have on a phone? How do you get it into your broadcasting system?
No, that's a great question. So I use Zoom because I love their option of calling in. They kind of like took that away in a sense. It's still there, but they don't mention it anymore. But since I've been doing it for so long, so there's like a LA number, New York number. I pick the one that's most local to a person. And if they're not technologically sound, which some people, I interviewed a guy, his name's Tim Lawrence. He passed away since we talked, but he worked on so many 80s and 90s movies that you would just love. Like he worked on Gremlins, Caddyshack 2. He was one of the puppeteers for The Gopher, Howard the Duck, Beetlejuice, you name it. He worked on all these little things that you or I couldn't fathom, but he was not the best with a computer. He barely would do email. So I had to get, so then that's how I figured that out. So I have them call in, they punch in a code. I record it through there. I export it and edit it in a free program called Audacity. And then I just use Anchor for my podcast and you just put it in that way. So it sounds like all over the place. It's like if you try to talk about chess, but one of those things, it's like you do it a couple times. It's sort of like riding a bike. And then each time you can go faster and faster. And now I feel like I'm pedaling pretty good, but every so often I learn something new or hit a hill. I don't know, one of those.
Same with me in chess. I'm still learning.
That's cool, man. It's always good to keep learning because if you're not learning, you're not getting better and, improving. So I love being able to learn like a new trick of the trade, and it just makes it easier for me and better for my listeners.
I think the listeners that you've got two kinds out there now. You got the kind that still really like the audio podcast. Even my boss, he said, you know what? I think we're going to take all of our interviews and throw them into a audio file only. I'm like, well, people can just click and listen. They don't have to watch us, right?
Yeah.
So filming it, both audio and video, to me has been an advantage that I could cut the video anytime. And that people have best of the both worlds, but we found that you have both, right? And
oh yeah,
so sticking with the platform that you're doing is really smart in this day and time. YouTube is over saturated right now with a lot of content, and
I know
that's the reason why we kind of started IBM TV, was to get new content in. That is filtered, right? A little bit unique, different than, say, what some of the other network stations are offering, because they all offer the same content over and over, right? Amazon, Netflix, Roku, they all offer the same content. They buy the same content from the same people. And a few of them, they'll have like their original series, right? Like I think Amazon has the original series upload, which I kind of like, or something like that. But
and also to add on it, IBM TV is for the world, by the world, and we are catering to the world, and we have content for each and every person living in different countries with different culture, different life, and different ways. And that is what we are doing. So sometimes what happens is that some content is not good for a country like US, but that is good for Africa, or maybe that is good for India. And we can also have different languages. So we are not bound with languages or with the audience or with targeting and things like that. It's for the world, and we have viewers from most of the continents. I mean, we have covered all the continents. If you talk about countries, apart from China, I think everyone is watching us around the world.
Well, we got 1.3 billion viewers in India, and we have, yeah. So
The cricket. Yeah.
which is awesome. And it's thanks also not just to our great host Ed Kit, but we've had some fabulous doctors from India especially during the crisis.
Of course.
Come on, like Dr. Tula from day one, come on and share with us the sound advice, not the panic advice, but just the good sound advice of, okay, this is the situation we're in. Let's just put the ice on the head, Kim. That's what Dr. Tula said. Put the ice on the head. But let's don't panic. Let's be smart about it. Let's take a look at what's really going on, how it's impacting you personally, and how we can help others. And that's what it has been about. And one of the ways we've helped others is provide people different kinds of enjoyable content. Music, we have Music Sunday. We have kids. We have kids shows on Sundays, and all of this has organically grown since we started in March with this. But again, just looking for, even shows like yours that are just very unique that people can enjoy, are drawn to help you distribute worldwide as well. But that's what IBM TV became about, is that the network stations, they're not there to really help you. They'll suck you dry. But we want to do is help people. We had a show start, kid you not, a young lady decided she wanted to start her own show on Sunday. And she said, I just want 1 hour. And we're like, okay. And I told Anki after working with her, because what we'll do is we'll sit and help and work with them the 1 hour. Like, we'll assign directors and everything and make sure everything's running smooth. And next thing you know, I go, she's going to be a 2-hour show. This girl is going to write. And she is. The next week, she was 2 hours. She is 2 hours.
Oh, wow, nice.
And also, same thing happened with one of the doctors. So he always come on our show as an expert. But now he's also doing a show which is known as a DJ with Dr. Arthur. And that show is for 1 hour. And then last time we did it for 4 hours.
Yeah, he got going so big, and the fans were cheering him on. He did a marathon. He's a real doctor a real doctor that works in North Carolina.
Oh, wow.
Just like Dr. Tula, he's a real doctor, spends his days working, but he donates his time doing music at night for his patients. He does what you call request. Dr. DJ. He does.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So he does requests by his patients, and we have Dr. Yu doing yoga on Sundays. And these are just real physicians that decided they wanted to do other things to, donate time to help. But it's funny because I thought, well, 1 hour is plenty for, somebody who's got other things going on. And he took 4 hours on like it was nothing. And I was like, oh my God, this guy's never going to quit. But we found that with our no restriction platform, what we tell people, and this is the advice I learned from Walter Football, who did his own show, was is be consistent and on time every week when you start. Because your viewers, that's what they're going to count on. They're going to count on you being there every week. And he had 6 million fans, okay?
Nice.
But he had been doing podcasting for 20 years, just podcasting.
Oh, nice.
And he switched over to Pod TV last year. He does fantasy football. I don't know if you're familiar with fantasy football.
Yeah.
But he was our first. He was our first to try out, to figure out how to work the kinks out. We started out with Zoom, and we ended up on this platform just because it was just so much easier. No uploading, no downloading, and everything. But what I learned was the true secret was being consistent and on time every day that you air. So like he was every Wednesday. So we were always on time, ready to go every Wednesday. And he, 6 million fans, I was just blown away to even work with somebody of that scale. But Ankit's got 1.3 billion. So.
And also, Doug, we also have a radio jockey doing a radio show on IBM TV. And he's doing the radio thing since, I think, more than 30 years. Maybe more than that. So one of the kind radio show on IBM TV. That's
anyone who wants to bring content to IBM TV, we got 1.3 billion viewers in India. We got millions of viewers in Africa. We've established in Africa really big now, And so South Africa, we've got 2 or 3 shows anyway that are running from there. So our viewer base. So I'm sitting here going, we've just got a few million viewers
I
in
know,
America.
just a couple million.
Yeah, but look at what we have worldwide, and we're not restricted by broadcasting rules. This is great. So we enjoy what we do, but what you do is pretty phenomenal, and you built it organically, like you bootstrap this, and that's hard to do.
That's a tip of the hat.
That is a tip of a hat. That if I had a hat, that's a tip of a hat.
Is the doctor here to help Jim out with this question about in between his eyebrows?
Yeah, maybe
So Dr. Tula is a plastic surgeon.
I know, I read that. That's why I was asking.
Dr. Tula has been with us since the beginning of our show. He was in India when they first quarantined and had come in contact with a COVID patient and self-quarantined, but has been with us since the beginning.
Well, doctor, my question to you is as a chess master, I have spent many hours over the board with the furrowed brow. So I have this one little spot here that's a line that I don't know how to get rid of. And I was asking Kimberly for makeup lessons, but
yeah. So Jim, my question to you is, how young are you?
I'm not young at all.
No, you are young. I mean,
I am.
So that's why I asked you the question that how young are you?
I am 63 in
okay.
years. Yes.
Okay.
In kid years. He's 63 in kid years.
And if I would, ask the question in a different way, how young are you with your heart?
Oh,
younger than Ankit.
When I was young in age, in years, I was so much older then. I'm younger than that now.
Yeah, great. So that's the spirit. That's the spirit.
By the choice of your shirt, basically, you look young.
Yeah. So that's why I asked him that how young is he, because I mean the flair is still there in him.
Yes.
He is young.
Tori Richards.
So do you have a good advice for getting rid of that wrinkle?
So the problem with him is that, see, there are certain people, we call them they have a habit of frowning more, right? So when you frown at a younger age, what happens is that your skin collagen content is good. So though lines do form, but they will not stay. But as we grow older and we keep on frowning and use that muscle, which is known as basically the corrugator superciliary muscle, which is the muscle which causes that line in the center, right?
Okay.
Because the muscle is going from hair to hair, and the line will come in a direction which is perpendicular to the muscle contraction, right? So you will have the central line coming. If you look at my face also, I also have that central line because I am a compulsive frowner, right? So people who have a habit of compulsive frowning, they get this line. Now, there are 2 ways of getting off with this line. One easiest way is to get a little bit of Botox done into that region. So you do a little bit of Botox injections into this region, and the line will become less apparent. It's not going to go completely, because right now you have what is known as a static line, right?
Yes.
So once you do the Botox, it will ease that muscle. So the line will become less apparent. It will take around 5 days for the result to be there, right? And after that, if you still want it to be gone a little more further, you can get a little bit of filler done in that region. So you can get a hyaluronic acid filler done, and that will take care of that line.
Okay,
so
I might
Botox and filler. So
yeah. First is Botox, because we need to understand that the muscle has to be softened out. Because if the muscle remains, because you have a habit of, the line is because you have a habit of frowning, right?
Well, I don't think of it as frowning. I think of it as concentrating.
Yeah. So the better word would be So when we concentrate, what happens is, if you look at you look into the mirror and try to concentrate on a single point, you will see that there will be 2 bulge of muscles in this part, the medial part. That is, these are the muscles which cause that central line.
Right.
So we need to make those muscles soft, right? Despite aging, the muscle strength has not gone down.
I can't massage it away.
No.
No, massaging will not help. Massaging,
No, you'll probably
unfortunately,
make
will
it
not help.
worse.
You can use a lot of moisturizing. If you use a lot of moisturizers, it may make it look better, but it's not going to go completely, but it will make it look better.
Kimberly, there's got to be a makeup tip.
There is. It's called filler. There is, and one of them I did, but what he's talking about is actually taking your skin and putting it back.
Yeah.
Almost like if you took an iron and ironed out the wrinkles. But don't do that. But what he's talking about, one is the moisturizer does, because you're and a little bit of massaging, not a lot, right? But what he's talking about is when you relax those muscles that have been doing what they've been doing for years, you relax that line. And then over time, as it relaxes, you put the filler in, and that will naturally fill it. Now that does cost money. Is there a less expensive way? Again, moisturizers. This is what I do, and Dr. Tula might laugh at me, but first off, my mom taught me to not do my face in wrinkly faces. She told me that's going to be the cheapest plastic surgeon I ever have, is to not do a lot of. She always said smile, but that will be your cheapest facial treatment. But don't smile too much, because you'll get these, right? So don't over smile, otherwise you get these. So my mom was a good trainer, but and she had a trick, and I'm not going to tell anybody here, but she had a trick, and even the mortician came to me and asked me, what did my mom use? Because my mom was very poor, and they thought it was going to be some real expensive thing, and it wasn't. But my mom had a little trick, and I'm carrying that one to my grave. And then I hang upside.
Rub dirt on it.
I do the moisturizers, and I might do them with the mask that's been cold, and I hang upside down every day, and I put ice packs on my face every day. So even if I have to hang upside down on a bed, because I travel 85% of the time, so I go down to the ice machine at the hotel, and I fill up the bag. And but what it was doing is it was taking inflammation out of my face, and helping my face use muscles that it probably wasn't, contracting. And this was just a habit I picked up over the years. And I do have a plastic surgeon. He has never done surgery on my face. He's been there for other things, and to help me out when I had to have some other surgeries. And I've asked him several times, and he goes, no. He goes, keep doing what you're doing, because it works for you. But it might be something different for somebody else. But I did notice, when I'm highly stressed and a lot of pain, and don't take me 100% on this, but somebody gave me some CBD oil, and I took it, and my face calmed down, like the tension wrinkles that you're talking about.
I take that every night.
So but I took it during the day, right? When my face was.
Jim, I'll give you a very easy advice, right? It's a textbook trick which you can do. You start wearing this.
There you go. Draw
right? If you move it, right, it pulls the entire string up.
Yep.
So no lines at all. This area, no lines.
Yeah,
this pulls this from here, right? It pulls you from here, so this also becomes better.
So I just had a
spiritual awakening.
You want to hear something silly?
So bandana gear around the forehead, or something which tightens up and pulls it back.
So the Irish hooligan cap is not.
So yeah, it's not. So maybe what you can do is maybe you can put a bandana below it, then put the cap on. Right?
Yeah.
It'll make you look.
One more solution, sir. Sir, I have one more solution. In India, we used to pray, to go to a lot of temples, and then we used to have that vermicelli on our forehead.
Yes, that can also be done. That can also be done.
Yeah. And that's a religious thing. I mean, we generally put it every day whenever we go to a temple.
So women have devised a really cool tool. To me, it looks, I haven't quite figured out how they use it, but they take these clips and they pull little pieces of their hair, because you notice you can pull your face up, just like what you're talking about. And they have these little clips that clip into the hair and pull back, and they clip it back here under their hair, right? So it's little, and it pulls certain muscles back. No, seriously, they do this. Like they have.
It's a way of pulling. Yeah, it's a way of pulling the skin, because what happens is the hair is implanted into the skin, and when you pull the skin, it happens if you were even putting a braided ponytail also.
Yeah, see?
If you put a ponytail also and put it tight, so what happens is this part of the face gets lifted up. So these are all tips and tricks. But
If I
a
could-
Yeah, and you
long-term
can pull
solution is that only.
that little part of the chin that doesn't want to work with you. You can pull it up. You can pull back the wrinkles, and you know. And I've seen women do this. I haven't quite figured it out because it takes a lot to sit there and tie the hair into the clips and pull them back. But there you go. You got.
Yeah. So this is the one.
So this is the solution, Jim.
Excellent. I'm studying. Each one is different though. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
different
So you
varieties
can
of.
try. There will be more than seven types. You can try one every day.
There you go.
Yeah.
Do it
Different
every
colors.
day. Do
So there are
it
multiple colors.
like a prayer every day, and you do a different. I still like hanging upside down with ice on my face. It's
I can do that.
it's a little easier. You know, I'm only over 50, so I mean I've got a few more years to go. So that's my temper. I'm only over.
You're just a young thing to me.
Oh well,
Yeah.
man. But
So I think
Hey,
Doug
guys.
needs to leave at this point of time. So
Dr. Tula,
thank you, Doug, for joining us today. And
Thank
we would
you.
to-
thank you for the advice. I think
Oh.
this smile made us
Pleasure,
better.
pleasure,
Thank
pleasure,
you.
man. Okay, take care.
So Doug, we would like to host you again whenever you are available, maybe next Thursday or maybe on Tuesday if you are
Saturday.
available on Tuesday.
Yeah, we'll connect through email and figure out a
Sure.
time. But Ankit, thank you. Kimberly,
Yeah,
Jim,
come back on
Dr. Tula.
Take
Tuesday.
care. God bless you. Take
Thank
care.
Come back on Tuesday.
Thank you. And everybody check out sequelsonly.com.
On it.
I will.
I'm on it.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks,
I'll
guys.
see you later. Bye
And
bye.
All right.
I would like to
Bye.
welcome Timothy Mills joining us today on Podcasters Thursday. Hi, Timothy. How are you doing?
Oops.
What happened? Everyone left suddenly? Suddenly, everyone just vanished. What happened? What happened to
I
Jim
don't
and what
know.
happened to Dr. Tula?
I don't know. I don't know.
Wow.
I clicked on Doug to make him go because he kept saying bye, bye. So I clicked on Doug and I
then
kept Doug.
suddenly, I don't know what happened.
I said goodbye to Doug and I took him off screen and everybody disappeared. I didn't hit anybody. I hit Doug. That's
But
it.
what happened to Dr. Tula? Because I just say bye to Doug because he sent me a message that he needs to leave now.
Well,
So I
Dr.
just-
Tula said he was leaving.
I didn't hear that because there was a lot of noise in between. That's why.
He said he was going to take his leave now. And I'm like, oh, don't leave now. And he left.
I think I'll tell you. So maybe I think I called to Doug and he thought that I'm talking to Dr. Tula and that's why I think he left.
I don't know. You know, I think
What happened to
Dr. Tula is usually patient enough that he will, wait around. We're live on broadcast now, folks. We lost our whole cast. Hopefully people will dial back in. We have no idea what happened. We knew that Doug's time was up and he was leaving. We were going to have our talk with Dr. Tula, who just happened to disappear. I thought he was taking his leave. I guess he wasn't, but our whole cast got cut. We're sorry, folks, but Ankit and I know how to carry the show. And we have Alexander here, but Jim just disappeared too. Everybody just kind of disappeared. I feel like I'm on a David Copperfield show right now. But I love the conversation we were having. It was very energizing, very positive. Kind of take us away from our problems, but listening to a success story, right? Somebody and to have 26 shows in a can. Oh my gosh, I'm so jealous. And his are ready to go. Have 26 and ready to go is a whole lot different than having 26 shows in a can and not ready to go that still need post. So no, he's but apparently he did all his own post. They weren't kind of like what Nick and I were doing where we were filming with 3 cameras. Again, technology has allowed us to be able to do this a whole lot better too. But did you hear some of the people he interviewed? And I didn't get to ask him the ShadowCon. I didn't get to ask him about
So I
And
think
I,
we need
and
to
I
follow
had it. I
the-
had it ready, but Jim asked him a question, and I forgot about it. But I had it ready. I was going to ask him.
But I think Kim, we were not able to ask a lot of questions to Doug today, and I mean we were discussing a lot of things, and we need to ask them about the podcast and since when he's doing. I even in fact we don't know where he's from. I think we didn't ask the city as well.
So, well, we got a lot out. I mean, we were
Yeah.
having fun, and I think he was having fun too.
Yeah, he was like.
So, but the thing is we know where to go watch his podcast. It sounds very, very interesting. You know, what's great is he's actually brought in the talent from those movies, and he's interviewing them. He's not just talking about the show. He actually has the talent from that show, that movie, on his show, and that's amazing to have some of those actors. And again, I wanted to ask him about ShadowCon, and then Jim hit him with a really good question, and I just totally lost it. But we'll get him back on. Maybe he can even do Celebrity Day for us.
Yeah, he can do that. Yeah, certainly. And I like his voice. I mean, he's having a different voice, the way he presents. So that was.
Oh yeah, he's got a radio voice. He really does have a radio voice. I think once he gets into doing more videos, he will really, once he gets more comfortable with it, he'll really like it. He didn't seem to have a problem though with us, so that was good. I mean, some podcasters, they get a little nervous when they get on TV, but you know, I think his kind of show would be great with Bollywood too.
Yeah.
You know,
he
because
was too good. He was very comfortable in his own space, and he understands what he needs to do. It's just a matter of practice and time when you do the video interviews compared to the audio thing. But he was perfectly fine. He was a cool guy, and he knows in and out about the podcasting and about the entertainment industry as well. So that was a good talk.
Right, and I think we just need to.
I'm just trying to reach back to Timothy again. Maybe he'll join.
Right. Right. I think, yeah. So I think it's just a lot going on today. And for whatever reason, we lost everybody. I hope people decide to dial back in. I was definitely wanting to hear more from Dr. Tula because he has been such a lovely guest on our show. And I miss having him here. He was here almost sometimes daily, right? And then all of a sudden, when somebody
what's happening is that because of our change in days thing, we are not able to invite everyone at the same point of time.
Right.
And we keep everything for Friday, and in between, whenever they have time, they message us, and then we invite them. That's how we're doing right now.
And people have to understand, you know, we're very flexible with our guests because some guests they'll say, yeah, I can make it, and then they don't, but eventually they do, right? We are very, very patient. We know that people have other lives, and COVID has not just disrupted, but you know, maybe just made things difficult. And if they get chances to work somewhere else, hey, that's great. We're very open to our clientele. We had a list today, but they just kind of. I hope that there's not a problem. I don't know if you noticed this, but all of a sudden our whole background disappeared earlier. And
so there's a thunderstorm and rain in Delhi, so I lost connection in between.
Oh, but it wasn't. Normally you lose connection, but I don't lose Podcaster Thursday and our logo, and the other logo comes up. So we had another logo on our page, not ours, and no, the whole thing just blew up.
When I checked in, when I logged in again, I was like, "What's the background?"
And I was trying to get it back. Right, I was trying to talk to the guests because you were gone, and I was trying to get rid of that other logo and get our. So no, the whole system blew out on us, and I don't think it was a hack. I just think something got rebooted somewhere for everybody. But it was kind of funny. But you know what? That's part of being live is that you're going to get those interesting interruptions and everything. But you know, people again, we're here to talk about the facts, you know, what's happening, but also just talk to people who have podcast shows because there's so many of them out there. I think, like Nick says, they grow by 3,000 a week. I wish my garden would grow that fast. It's interesting if you go out into the podcast world just to take a look at it. A lot of companies have tried to separate the podcasters. In other words, all of these are business shows only. All of these are spiritual, which reminds me, we've been trying to get some spiritual people on as well. We need to focus on getting that. Anyway, I wish they would dial back in. I feel really bad, but I don't know what happened.
So Kim, I would like to play one of the videos of Mariam. She shared a couple of videos.
Why don't we do that?
All the videos are amazing. I mean, I can't believe I've never seen such videos in my life. And those are real videos from Mount Everest and other places. So let me play some of them.
So go ahead and play those. I'm going to step in the back stage for a minute.
Yeah. So that was one of the videos shared by Mariam. She was not able to join us today, but she will be joining us next week. And I'll play a second video which she shared us only for our viewers on IBM TV. And that is also amazing. I'll just showcase my audience. So that was Mariam Kriti joining us from Switzerland, and she's a mountaineer. She is on the Guinness Book of Records of, I mean,
Wow.
winning all the
Wow,
highest
right?
in the year, and that is amazing. And she'll be joining us, Kim, next week on a Podcasters Thursday. But we'll welcome Timothy Mills again on Podcasters Thursday. Hi, Timothy. How are you doing?
Hey guys, how you doing? My connection had hung up. I don't know what happened.
Well, Timothy, I was scared we accidentally blew you out. You know, we beam in and beam out like we're Star Trek
Yeah.
around here. And
And you know what happened? The time you leave out because of connection, all our guests
everybody,
and you were like,
Oh,
what
well,
happened?
so-
I don't know.
everybody
was-
blew out. And Kid and I are sitting here staring
And I
at
was
each
like, what's
other.
going on? I don't know.
So, yeah, we thought we blew everybody. So we call this beaming in and out. So I don't know if you knew Star Trek, but my senior executive producer, Nick, he started this. I'm beaming in, I'm beaming out. So that's what we do around here. But all of a sudden, everybody beamed out on us. And we're going, what happened? How are you doing,
Yeah.
Timothy? Welcome.
I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine.
All
How
right.
you guys doing?
Can
Thank
you
you guys for having me.
keep the mic a little closer?
It's
the
hard
mic-
to hear you.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
actually using I'm actually in the car, so I was working, so I'm actually using my iPods.
Okay.
My
Okay.
AirPods.
So share with
So
us what do you work at?
Well, I'm actually doing some freelancing work now, but I'm an entertainer, I'm an actor.
Okay. So do you have a podcast?
Yes, I do. I have a podcast called Kings of Culture Podcast with 5 of my other friends. We're on hiatus right now because of the pandemic. So I went and I did like 2 segments of my own podcast where I interviewed 2 people that's in the jail system, and I just want to get their opinion on what's going on with them right now, because even though people are in jail, they are different. They go through the same thing as well, and they're catching the coronavirus, and it's kind of funny because they can't have visits. So how are they being exposed to the virus? So my thing was just to have them express and show what they're going through at this time.
And you know, you have to ask that question. How are people who are secluded in certain variations, but in a prison, they are not secluded. This is what I try to tell people. The prisons are probably one of the biggest mass transit systems of many things. Okay. I mean, we've even seen here in North Carolina where one of the prisoners managed to have all kinds of things brought into him, even a cell phone. Right. And they couldn't even, as much as they searched people and everything, they found out the cell phone was brought to him inside of a basketball that was given to him. So so the smuggling in and out of things. Right. But if you think about just even that, the prison system is a cesspool of a petri dish. Right.
Yes.
Because it is secluded to a point, but things go in, right? More than they come out, things go in.
Yes.
I'm just saying.
Yes.
So you got to ask yourself how. Okay, so the people who work there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And can a carrier be someone that you don't know is a carrier for 2 weeks? Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Right? So we know that. So could it have been possible that somebody brought it in? So there was a lot of unknowns in the beginning. And we actually, I think we were one of the first to raise the red flag about prisons on our show. So your concern is very legit. But one of our one of our board members used to work in the prison system. And that was one of his concerns. And then we've had other people bring it up as well. So, because it is a lockdown situation, but you still bring a lot of things in. So
exactly.
So things are brought in by food. All right. Things are brought in by clothing. Things are brought in and you said that it's not like they had a lot of visitors, but for 2 weeks before they closed down, they did.
They did. Yeah. They did.
Right. So they could have had it for 2 weeks and not know it themselves.
Not knowing it, yeah, as well.
So that's the situation with this this particular virus. That's why it made it so dangerous, right? As the Dr. Tula had shared with us in the very beginning, back in early March when he first started coming on our show, the fear isn't that it's the virus itself, is that it's a ghost. And Dr. Segoo shared this as well. We're fighting a ghost. For 2 weeks, people are spreading it and don't know it. And you can't control that kind of fire, right? You just
No.
But so
You gotta just wait it out and see what happens.
well, but that's not something you want to wait out on, right? That's not especially if you have the facts and you know that it could spread like this. This is something that you want to take a tighter reactive solution to. And maybe they should have, because they've known about this since January. The government had the facts. So even if and it probably would have violated every prisoner's rights, and they probably would have filed a complaint after complaint, but they really could have and should have shut down the prisons first. Right?
Like what I would say is that what they are doing is they're saying, oh, we're freeing people. But my concern with that is that, all right, so you're going to free someone who's probably been locked up for maybe 4 or 5 years, been in prison maybe 4 or 5 years. Where's he going to go? Is he going to go home to his family?
Freeing them is not going to fix the problem.
Exactly.
So containment, treatments, we don't have a vaccine. Isolation, unfortunately, but isolation in a promising way. Give them each their own TV set. Give them each their own educational resources if they want to educate and take classes. But isolation, unfortunately, in this petri dish environment, is the only way. So, and that's how you're going to do it. How unfortunately, probably right now, if people are infected, just now treat them. And we've discovered treatments, symptomatic treatments are the way we've been able to save people. Early treatment, early detection, and early treatment. And hear me out on this. And this is what people don't understand, because they're not educated. Okay. Facts are very important. For the first 2 weeks that you have it, that you have no symptoms, you feel fine, you feel great, right? You have no symptoms for 2 weeks. And there's a National Geographic article on this, and it was out in February. So definitely data was out there about this. So you've got something, watch this. I don't know if you know where are you from, Timothy?
I'm from Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, well, I'm so sorry to hear that. That's very, we'll talk about that in a minute. But this is what the coronavirus looks like. Do you know what this is?
I have no idea.
You've never seen one of these?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I've seen those. Yeah.
You hate these things, don't you? They hurt your feet, right?
Yeah.
They're very sharp and spiky, and that's what the corona is. And it comes in millions into your body. And what it does is it goes into the lungs. Ground zero usually becomes the lungs, your throat, and ground zero. But it's there for 2 weeks doing what? Tearing. It spins around. This thing with millions of spikes are inside your soft tissues, tearing at things, making it look like a honeycomb. And I don't have my honeycomb with me today, but making it look like a honeycomb with all these holes. All right. So for 2 weeks, that's what it did. Well, when things tear at you, what happens inside you?
It breaks apart your body, and now your body, other certain tissues have to take up for another, replace another tissue.
Exactly.
I'm not a doctor, but
you understand when you start tearing the inside of your body, that happens infection, right? You got all of these holes for infection. So watching an autopsy of 12 patients, which I've done, to find out why do they die, it's infection. But think about this. For 2 weeks, those corona balls are inside your body, tearing for 2 weeks while you're feeling good. So you're feeling good, you're doing things, probably you should be resting, right? So this disease is tearing at you, and all of a sudden you hit a wall. And you hit a wall because it did all the damage it could. And there's nothing left.
Especially if you already have a prior problem with like something like a bad immune system, diabetes. So it's doing, so you already got damage going on with whatever you already have,
Exactly.
plus this. So it kind of breaks your body down quicker for people who have bad immune systems.
Right. But it still took 2 weeks, and then your body hits the wall. And it hit a wall because all the damage is done. This is why I tell people, by the time you have symptoms, it's too late. See, nobody would listen to our show because they were listening to all the fake stuff, like the president saying, no, it's not airborne. He had, because I had the same document on my desk. It was aerosol. What is aerosol?
I have no idea.
Aerosol is airborne. It's just another word.
Oh.
But he typically used a word that they use when they want to get around something legally, right? So that he could calm the nation. It's not airborne. Don't worry about it. Just, you could be this close. And then the next time you hear somebody talk about, oh, you need to be this close. Oh, you need to be.
I think that our government had no idea of how to treat this, what was going on with it. I think that they were just doing everything on the fly.
No, I think they knew. They've had it on their desk for 2 months before it hit us. They had the information. They chose not to. Why do you fire a pandemic team and then a pandemic hits and you don't rehire them back? Why?
That's a deeper type of question though. If you're saying they already knew and then because the way it looks like they had no idea what they were doing. People were just dying.
No, they had all that. I love this this thing that he says now, that I didn't have all that information. They withheld all the information with me, and I find that really iconic, considering that he goes around saying, "Well, we're doing better than what they predicted." Predicted in what? Predicted in what? Ooh, yeah, you've heard the president say that many times. We're doing better than what they predicted. They predicted.
I kind of
but predicted in what? So I had the same documents on my desk that he had. He probably had more, right? I had to go dig and beg for these documents. He probably had more. But this is what bothers me. They did know. They were more worried about the Dow and their own pocketbook. So if you go back and look, they were cashing in on their stocks before they closed the country down. Okay. And not just certain ones. I'll guarantee you there was a lot more than a few that were panned out. But you got Giuliani, ex-mayor Giuliani went and invested, and this is public, invested $2 million in hydroxyquine in February. All right.
So he knew.
But hydroxyquine really doesn't fix you. All right. It's one of the drugs that might fix you. But he invested in hydroxyquine, $2 million. Then March comes, the president makes Giuliani his science advisor. Now, if I were to assign a science advisor in a pandemic, I think I would hire an NFID person, National Foundation of Infectious Disease, or the infectious disease doctor that saved Nigeria from Ebola, right? If I were going to get
not someone who's investing into the drug. So not someone who's going to make a profit off the drug.
Right. So then he closes the country down, and a week later goes, we got hydroxyquine that will save us. And then what he was trying to do was, but what a lot of people don't know or don't remember, and this is also public knowledge, in 2018, hydroxyquine company paid Trump's lawyer $2 million to endorse them.
Wow.
To lobby for them. This is all public knowledge. People just forget about this stuff. Right.
So are you saying it's a conspiracy?
No, I'm just saying these are the facts. I'm not. You make your own story. I'm just saying this is the data. This is the data and the facts. Okay. These are public knowledge. This is not me making anything up. But if I were to take timeline, all right. So all of a sudden, he's pushing hydroxyquine because the FDA won't approve it. His best friend, who he just signed as a science advisor, invested $2 million in it. He was invested in it in many, many ways. 2 years earlier. Why hydroxyquine? When we found out from a doctor in Harvard or 2 other doctors in India that just your standard asthma medications work.
Wow.
Yeah, one of the doctors at Harvard who could not get any funding had several patients, and he was treating them with asthma medication,
And it
respiratory
worked.
medication. Every one of his patients survived. Dr. Arthur here in North Carolina did systematic treatments. Systematic treatments are what? Things for respiratory problems. What would you recommend for respiratory problems? Your standard stuff: steroids, asthma medication, maybe some, antihistamines, a breather, right?
So
Basic.
how is everything down where you at in North Carolina? How is like
We're stupid.
life?
Stupid.
Is it
Don't come
open?
down here. Yeah, it's stupid unless you got a place to live. Don't come down here, because we kind of reopened, and we opened up with rules for 10 people per event, and we hosted a big race car event last weekend with 4,000 people crammed together with no masks. So I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah, stupid. How are things up in New York? My son's up there. He moved up there right as it locked down, so all his stuff is still here, including his car. So
I think
how is
everyone have their own opinion. Well, I've been out, so everyone have their own opinion of it, but I don't think everyone is following the rules because it's so much people, and the way New York is built, like it's overpopulated. So even just to go outside and get some air, you're around someone.
yeah.
So you kind of got to stay secluded in your house, which I doubt anyone wants to do, especially for what's been almost 3 months now. It'll probably drive you insane. They're slowly opening things. I won't say it's, and they have NASCAR like sporting events, but they're slowly opening things. But anything that was owned by the government, like basketball courts, things like that, recreational fun has been, you can't really get into the park.
That
But
doesn't
like
make any
Central,
sense.
it's to me, it's kind of weird because if you go like to Central Park, there's people running, there's people working out, so there's no social distancing there. And then they say we had the highest amount of cases, which I can believe because New Yorkers are not going to listen to rules.
Well, it's not just listening. So first off, you were the international gateway.
Mhm.
So it came in through the international gateway in volumes. And the other thing is you're highly concentrated. It's not that you wouldn't listen to the rules. The Americans don't, but it's because it's against your freedom of civil rights, supposedly. But what most Americans don't realize is that our Constitution writers put in a pandemic clause a long time ago. And it is, you have no rights when there's a pandemic. But nobody wanted to be the unpopular leader and tell you you had no rights. So what they did is because they were damned if they do and damned if they didn't. I guess they decided, let a few things happen and let a few people get infected and die, and then we'll look like heroes when we come back. But because they know people just don't adhere. But New York isn't the worst for not listening. They're the worst impacted for not listening. Does that
Yeah,
make
but I agree with you, and also the leaders haven't been great, as in misinformation. Well, like you tell someone, hey, we're going to open up the state, we open up the city back in, let's say, May 25th. Stop giving us dates. Let's just, that's a problem. Let's just see what happens. Stop giving us dates. In my opinion.
2 weeks. Have you ever seen that movie Money Pit? And Tom Hanks
No, I
goes,
haven't.
2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. No, no. People run out of patience. And this is what I told people in the beginning.
Exactly.
Do me a favor. I want you to do me a favor. It's free on IBM TV if you go to our movies. And I don't know if it costs anything anywhere else. But there's a movie called 93 Days. Okay. 93 Days is a true epidemic movie in Nigeria. It was a true story about how Nigeria could have been, you know how congested Nigeria is, right?
Yes.
And Ebola came into their country.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you know how bad Ebola is, but it is something that it spreads.
Yeah, I remember Ebola.
So this was an incident that, Ebola, there's no cure for Ebola. Ebola still exists. Okay. Ebola still
I
exists.
didn't know that. I didn't know that.
No virus just goes away. All right. But what we do is we contain it, and then we control it with screening, testing, treatments, and isolation. There is no vaccine for that, just like there's no vaccine for HIV. Right? It didn't go away. We just
Didn't go away.
no.
They control it now.
We control it. and we kept telling people that's what we're going to do with this. But the problem is we have to stop the spreading, right? Once you stop the spreading, then you can, but nobody wanted to listen to that. There was too many fights. But look at the stats right now. We're sitting worldwide 5,847,000 and climbing daily. And the reason why we're climbing is two reasons. One, we've increased the amount of testing that we're doing. And two, we've started reopening. And many countries that have not kept to their convictions and standards during lockdown have suffered, right? So they're starting to see a high increase. But the U.S., can you see this?
Yeah, I can see. It's a little blurry because I'm going through my phone and I'm not like the.
Okay, yeah, it's hard to see. So I will let you know the U.S. trumps everyone by 1,783,000 new cases. It was 1,500,000 last week. The next country, which we knew was climbing fast, and they weren't in second place last week, they were actually third or fourth, is 41,000 infected. All right, so we're more than
Wow.
we're 1,000,007 versus 41,000. So figure that one out. It takes more than 10 countries, the top 10 countries combined, to be with where we're at.
And also, Kim, we know that a lot of countries are doing underreporting. That is also the case, and that's why we don't have real numbers. And you know that a lot of theories are coming up from different countries, especially China, and we are not sure what's going to happen and what are the chances of coming back and those things.
The other thing that increases the knowledge of the cases is the amount of testing that you do, right? Yeah. So if you do more tests, of course, you're going to determine more people who are infected.
More people, because it's people just walking around with it and don't know.
Right. But when I look at the amount of deaths that and it went up it was 100,000 on Monday. So we leaped to 102,000 deaths. So it was right at 100,000 on Monday. So we're that doesn't sound a lot for the whole country, but when you look at all the other countries,
And to think like, well, I would say, like Spain is they're not as big as us, but Russia is a big country.
Yeah.
So I don't know how big Germany is.
But look at how many deaths they have, right? But what we do is we kind of go over here to tests per million, but deaths per million, right? So if you look at deaths per million, Spain still is a lot more than us. The UK, they're really climbing fast. Italy. So, but if you scroll down, what I like to do is look at the countries that were barely any. India is 3 deaths per million. My favorite is Hong Kong because they really didn't shut down. They just put strict restrictions on their public, but they never shut down. Malaysia never shut down. Iceland, if we can find Iceland. Iceland.
Way down.
Way down?
Way down. Both Hong Kong and Iceland are way down.
Right. Iceland.
Yeah. Iceland, I think, gone up a little bit.
There it is. So Iceland, if you look at, of course, a very small population, 341,000. They're showing a total of 10 deaths in their whole country.
Wow.
They never shut down from day one. They never shut down. All of their kids still went to school. Their prisons didn't have to empty out or anything like that. They operated, but this is what they did. The first person that tested positive, they traced.
Yeah. And they have a pandemic team.
They had a pandemic policy and team. Yeah. All right. So their country already knew, share your resources. The hospitals have this. This is what we do. And they had a pandemic policy of testing. Yeah. They didn't test people who were already sick. Screw that. They're sick. Treat them.
They're already sick. Treat them.
Right. Yeah. We don't care that they have the flu or COVID. Treat them. They took the test kits and they tested people who weren't.
So they basically use their testing wisely. Instead of our country saying we don't have enough testing, well, you're already testing people who are already sick. You could use that on people who aren't, so we can keep them away from the spread.
But that was the difference between having brains, an infectious disease doctor in control, a pandemic policy, and a pandemic team. And they never closed down. All of their restaurants still operated. All of their businesses still operated. So their impact economy-wise is us. Economy-wise, they're going to go under the same as other countries because we didn't. But we had the same information they did. We had the same knowledge, but we instead waited and dragged our feet and waited. And now they want to blame the governors for everybody dying. It's Governor Kuma's fault that all these people are dying. No, it's not. No, it's not. Our leader had no policy in place to follow. The governors are cleaning up the mess. The governors were left with a mess. Okay, here's the mess. Your state's dying fast. What do? Do you listen to the president anymore? No, you go in and you clean it up the best you can. Right.
That's true.
But it's not one.
We listen to the governor. Yeah, we listen to the governors.
Your governor is probably one of the smartest, best governor. Do you know that the president tried to punish him because he asked for more PPE supplies for your state? Yeah. Your doctors didn't have enough PPE. So do you know what Trump did? Instead of picking up the phone and calling a hospital in North Carolina that had more PPE and could have shared it, he Twittered and said, I gave New York this. I gave New York that. I gave them all of these things. They want more. What do they want? Flowers? And I go, what president Twitters and tries to insult people when they're trying to survive? Who does that? And you got a man who's struggling to save every life that made poor decisions because he had to clean up fast. I'm not saying every decision he made was good, but he had no other choice. The elderly situation. The elderly were tested positive at the hospital, but they had no place to go. He wanted them to go back to their elderly home and be treated, but the proper PPE put in and resources put in, but nobody listened to him. They just let them go back to the home, and the home didn't do their precautions. So yeah, the whole elderly home got sick and died. But people are not looking at the whole story. They're looking at the fractions of the story. But what you're doing for the prisons, I commend you. Thank you for taking that initiative. I would like to introduce you to a friend of mine that works with the prisons. And that has been his concern. He is a former NFL player, and
what's his name?
Huh?
What's his name?
His name is Tommy Harris. And
Tommy Harris?
Uh-huh.
He played for the Panthers?
No, not the Panthers. He played, but he was the highest paid defense player in the world. Okay. Yeah, he was the highest defense. But Tommy Harris retired a few years ago. His wife died. His daughter died. Things were just clouding him. But he's now a musician, and his music airs on IBM TV. So you can hear his music on IBM, and he's good. He is really good. He's country western. But you've got a music show too. We didn't even get a chance to talk to that. We got off on a tangent, so I'm going to give you another day to come in. But tell us real quick about your music.
I think we have to talk to Timothy about the acting and other stuff he's doing. I checked the website, and there are a lot of amazing stuff he's doing on.
Yeah. So what are you doing music wise?
Well, my girlfriend, she's a singer. My girlfriend's a singer and a songwriter. And we had a company called Bonding First, and we actually do give backs. We started a give back last year on her birthday. We gave school supplies to the kids, and we want to do another one. We don't know what's going to happen with the pandemic, but we have a lot of. It's an entertainment company. We do movies, music as well. Podcasting was something that we started with.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
we can hear you, Arifa.
Oops. So you do music? You do?
No, I don't do music. My girlfriend does music. I'm an actor.
Okay, and then you're doing this podcast for prisoners.
Yes, I did. It was a segment. It was a pandemic. As entertainers, we was out of work. We had nothing to do. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna get on. my cousin, he's in prison. He called me. He was with concerns on how they're being treated and people in there catching COVID. And so I decided to, use my platform and put that to the world.
No,
So
and
I did one segment. I teamed up with my other friend who's also in prison, and they spoke on what they're going through, what they want to do when they come home. I speak to him every day. He tells me that people are getting released and they're coming right back to jail because they have nowhere to go.
so that's what we don't think in this country, right? This is supposed to be a reform system.
We
Prison
think of
is supposed to be reform. There is no reform. There is no place to go to when you get out, to start off in an apartment, to start off with a job. We just throw you into the fire. And granted,
Throw
maybe
you into the world.
But maybe they consider that equal rights because
exactly.
Because I was thrown to the wolves as well. When I got out of college, I was thrown to I put myself through school. So maybe people think that's equal, but I don't think that's smart. All right. I think if you're going to take somebody out of reform, it's all about money. But I think if you take somebody out of reform, you don't put a $10 in their pocket and put them on a bus. You don't do that.
And that's basically what they do. And then you got to think, majority of us, we come from poverty. So
All right,
just
sorry.
Look at it like this.
Hi, everyone.
You're right that they come out of poverty. You're right.
Yeah. So let's just say I have a family member who gets released from jail early because of the pandemic, right? I was laid off from my job, so I'm struggling and trying to figure out how am I going to take care of my family. And then I'm happy to see my loved one to come home, but I don't have any space for them. I don't have any resources, any money to take care of them. What do they do at this aspect? Now, if they go out and they commit a crime to take care of themselves, you're going to put them back in jail, and you're going to say, "Hey, well, we freed you. What more do you want? What more do you want?"
Yeah. Oops. What happened? And so we lost one. He'll come back. So.
Adifla, are you there online?
Adifa? Adifa?
Timothy
Blackbeard? She went out on us. I don't know what's happening. We are definitely having a lot of technical difficulties. And that's an interesting conversation with the young man that was on with us, and that would definitely like to get him on again just to talk about the prison systems, and maybe we can get Tommy on to talk about his mission with the prison systems as well. Tommy's been tied up with his own personal family and doing things for them during COVID, so it's been difficult getting people to show up. Where some people have had more time, other people haven't. And there's Sasha. All right. So Sasha, how are you doing?
Doing fine. I was wondering why in the prison system the chess shouldn't become more popular, because that helps them not only to kill a lot of time between you and me, but also to become a better person and learn new skills and become a better person, really.
Well, they have implemented chess. Actually, Elliot has started a program. A paper was so they have implemented chess in the prisons. One of the governors took a positive approach to this, and the state attorney general, I think, as well. And they asked for the project to be kind of undercover for a while until they had proven results. But the results were coming back really good, that the prisoners were given incentive to take a chess program, right? And the chess program wasn't just about chess, it was about life skills, right? It was about playing chess, but also, so it was a program, but they were given an incentive to do this, maybe to earn earlier time out or whatever. And these, I don't know if they went into the violent prisoners as well, but definitely, offering earlier release times and things like that, and positive enforcements for the nonviolent, and they had positive results.
Especially now when chess online is getting so big because of the coronavirus effect.
Yeah.
And a lot of people feel that it will remain for some time in the future that a lot of chess will be done online. So in prison, if they have access to internet, and probably they do, they can do a lot of chess playing and instructions as well on online. And I see no impediments to that, regardless. Doesn't matter geographically where they're located. They can get access to a very solid instructions and tournament play and so on.
Right. And we have a special guest too. And I'm glad that you brought that up because that is something that we can do to become a positive influence and inspiration. But so we've had a guest that's been popping in and out for a while now. Did you make it? Where is she
Adifa,
at?
how are you doing? Can you hear us?
Where is she at, Ankit? Where's she
She's in
from?
Nigeria. Nigeria.
Oh my gosh. The story I tell.
Yeah. Adifa, can you hear us? Can you say hi?
She's very beautiful.
Yeah.
She freezes very beautiful, by the way. Every time I freeze with my mouth open and awkward. But she's.
I really don't know. I mean, how can we fix bandwidth in Africa?
Hi.
Because there's so many people joining us. Hi, can you hear us?
Sorry, I'm having trouble connecting. And yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm having trouble.
That's all right. That's all right. So, Adif, what do you do and where are you from?
Can you hear me? Hear me?
Yes, Adif. So, can you tell our viewers what do you do and where are you from? I think there's a bandwidth problem. It looks like so some countries have a great bandwidth. They're talking about 5Gs and all those things, but some countries still don't have a good 2G connection, and that's what's hampering. And I don't know why some countries are so far and some are not.
Well, like Nigeria seems to suffer considerably, whereas South Africa itself, but you know, it could be just certain people have certain better band.
No, I'll tell you, okay, I had a word with Kelvin, if you remember. So
I remember Kelvin.
Yeah. So he said that there is a lot of bandwidth problem in Nigeria. So maybe that's why I don't know. But I've tried reaching out to people from Uganda and other countries as well. And they said that it's difficult for them to come on a video call because there is no bandwidth.
What about an audio call? Could they do that?
So audio calls for this one, they need to connect with internet. And that is the problem.
So the same would be.
Can you hear us now? Hi, Arifa, can you hear us?
I'm also.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Fine. I don't know if you can hear me, but I think I can hear you now.
We hear you just fine.
Yes, I can hear you now. Hi.
So, Arifa,
I'm so
what
sorry.
do you do and where are you from?
The connection is very poor. So
no worries. No worries. We're patient. We're used to this. So welcome.
What did you say?
Welcome.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Welcome.
Okay,
welcome,
that's fine.
So share. Where are you? Who are you? And what do you do?
Arifa, who are you and what do you do?
Thank you. Thank you for welcoming me. Thank you. It's a privilege to be here, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
So tell us something about yourself.
So I'd like to join in on the conversation from wherever we left off.
Arifa, tell us something about yourself.
Thank you. Thank you.
So
I think there is a problem with the sound, and she's not getting the real time voice.
Maybe we can figure another way to do this, especially with other countries, because we run into this problem. I'm going to keep looking at different.
I'm so
ways.
sorry, I didn't get that.
Don't worry about it.
Can you hear us now? 1, 2, 3. Can you hear us right now? So she's getting a deferred live, I think. So that's why it's not real time. Adifa, she lost it. I think Canada, India, and US, we have good connections as compared to the other countries.
Well, here's some ideas that I have. There are so many different ways to do this. They apparently have a carrier service there. They apparently do video calls between each other. So somehow or another, maybe we can, because you remember I do backhaul wireless carry that, so somehow or another we need to engineer a means that, say somebody in that country, they get a connection to a backhaul, right? So rather than trying to do everything just through this, because so somehow or another, we need to figure out a carrier backhaul. Then they go through their system and then it meets ours. And somehow or another, we can make the two connect because it's all the cloud, right?
So can we do some kind of a cloud studio, maybe in Nigeria, and people can connect to the studio and then connect to IBM?
So that's what I'm talking about. Maybe we can get a backhaul in some of these places, right, where the backhaul is thick. And so remember how I explained to you when I came up with one of the first Wi-Fi networks in the country, and the what I came up with is that we built it into a matrix, and you have a backhaul, right? You always, this is what I tell everybody, you're not going to get rid of that LAN. You're not going to get rid of that backhaul. So somewhere we got to find the backhaul. And if we find that backhaul, then their bandwidth is not an issue. And that's what we got to do is partner with the backhaul. And one, they never built their infrastructure to be there. And two, I think that there is a way that maybe we put their video into their network and our video into our network and we meet. And there's got to be a way to do that. I'll engineer it. I'll figure it out. I just don't have enough time in the day. But it's there to make that connection.
Can we create some kind of a local connection using drones, and then would that work?
So actually, we could do this if it costs money right now, but as it grows, it wouldn't do so much. When I worked in smart cities, we built drones that had Wi-Fi carrier booster, right? And we could also do broadcasting signal on them. So we could lift those drones up into an area and it would boost the Wi-Fi into an area, just like we were designing them to go into the forest, right? For firefighters, for hikers and things like that, right? To boost signals, right? So also for war, they were using, I'm like, this is what I told them. I go, you really want to use a drone for Wi-Fi? That drone's going to get shot out of the sky. Every time you put it up, it's going to get shot out of the sky. Who came up with this idea? But anyway, so yeah, you can take drones and deliver Wi-Fi. A lot of people are not utilizing it smart. A lot of these countries did not install it the smart way. They installed it the cheap way. And they probably had people come in and sell them a deal on how to do it and didn't know what they were doing. So so a lot of people, I deal with a lot of people from Africa. They came to me to help them build out some of this technology. And they didn't listen to a word I said. They go, yep, we got it. We already figured it out. I'm like, fine, whatever. They listened to half of what I told them, right? And then they go, oh, we could get it cheaper and better over here. Okay, fine, see ya. And then they go, we got it figured out. And then they install this crap, you see, that doesn't go anywhere. So, and it's not just me. I'm sure they treated a lot of people like me that way. You sat down and you gave them the instructions. And I've had people do that to me many times. How do you build out a fiber network? And I always leave out a secret key when we're going over it in business, and then they try to go do it themselves and fail. So, but
So she
anyway,
just messaged me that she's having a tough time with the bandwidth, and
it's
I've
going to be
requested
too
her
hard.
I requested her to join us on audio. Maybe she'll try with an audio, and maybe we can connect her.
Well, that, or let's do, live is always good, but maybe we can send her a list of questions, or you and I do a video of asking questions and we send it to her, and she does a video answering the questions.
That would work, certainly. That would work.
And then we play the video back. I mean, there's ways around this. I mean, it's kind of like when people record music in one location and then they share it to somebody else, and that person adds music. We could do a grapevine interview, right? So you and I can come up with, hey, how's it going? Share with us who you are, what you do. Then she's going to do that. Then we're going to send her questions, and then she's going to answer them. And it might take us a week, but let's see how it pans out. She's resilient. I mean, my God, the girl is awesome. So let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
What do you think, Alexander?
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. At least you should try that.
Yeah.
And I don't see any reason why it wouldn't work.
Well, what we're doing now is just letting her introduce herself, who she is, what she does, why she does it.
She doesn't have a proper connection, obviously. Probably she couldn't even answer questions. I'm pretty good.
It's very clear, though. Look how clear it is. Her connection, her video is clear.
Adifa, can you hear us now? Adifla, can you hear us now?
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, Ankit.
Yes, hi, how are you?
I can hear you now.
Great, that's great, yeah.
Ankit, is this your friend?
Okay, that's fine. Hello, everyone.
Everyone is my friend. Everyone is my friend.
I Kimberly, I Sandra, I Ankit. I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah. I hope
So how are you?
I hope everyone can hear me now.
Yes. Yeah. How are you doing?
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so do I start with introductions? And
yes, just
myself.
Yeah. Start talking.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi everyone, I'm Nifesi Adefila Oluwanifesi. So I'm a podcaster. Yeah, definitely that's why I'm here. Yes. So I run a podcast called Inside Life on Anchor. Anchor is my host podcast handle. So my podcast is a show that basically talks about life, all the issues of life and how to deal with them. On my show, I talk about love, I talk about faith, I talk about family, I talk about finance, I talk about mental health issues, I talk about everything that has to do with life and how to, the right responses, how to deal with them. So I have people come to my show to talk to with me, co-hosting with me every now and then. Majorly, I do all the talking and I hear out the views from people.
And Adifa, where are you from?
I didn't get that, please. Ankit, you said something that I did not get.
So I said, where are you from? Which city in the world?
Based on the...
Are you from Lagos, Nigeria?
Yes, I'm from Lagos, Nigeria.
Great.
I'm from Lagos, Nigeria. Thank you.
Great. And since how many months you are doing your podcast in Nigeria? Since when you are doing your podcast, Adifa?
Yeah, I do my podcast from Nigeria.
Since how many?
It isn't just about issues in Nigeria alone.
You know what?
Since how
Let's
long
do
you're doing
this.
it?
I'm going to text questions, and you tell her I'm going to text questions, and she can answer them.
I think she's on mobile, and I am not sure whether she'll be able to check the questions on private
Okay.
chat.
Sorry,
So I said, since how long you're doing your podcast?
Ankit?
Rifa, since how long you're doing your podcast?
I didn't get that.
Okay, I'm going to guess 6 months. What do you think?
6 months?
9
Sasha?
months.
Oh,
9
I'm
months.
so sorry, I did not get that.
She
I
can't
think she's
hear
doing
us.
it for
I couldn't
more than a
hear
year.
you.
Yeah. Okay. So the under is 6.
Okay.
The
And
over
she-
is
So she's on mobile, so she won't be able to see private chat. So I think this would be better if we just send her questions that
we'll
you
do
and I do on a video, and then she videos a answer session, and then we can display it, and that will get past the problem. She's very beautiful, very beautiful. I would like to see her podcast sometime, so maybe we can work on that.
She doesn't have a concentration.
I wonder how she does her podcast there if the bandwidth is not so good.
I'm not sure. Maybe she records it and then put it on an upload.
But still, you got to have bandwidth to watch it.
So what happened? I'll tell you in
Okay,
India. I mean,
I've been
not now.
podcasting for
Yes, Arifa, go ahead.
about.
So
Yeah,
since how long you are doing your
sorry.
podcast?
Okay. Did you ask?
Oh God. So what I'll do is I'll try to play one of her podcast if I'll find it. Maybe that way we can understand what she does and what kind of podcast she's doing, and that way we would know more about Arifa. And
How do you
I'll
broadcast?
tell you, Jim, what's happening in India. I mean, nowadays we have good internet, but I mean, I'm talking about 10, 15 years back. We used to upload a lot of files at night because very few people work at night and we have a good internet at night. So I used to upload everything at night, and on daytime I just, create a lot of files and then I wait for the night to upload it. That's what I used to do 15 years back.
Yes, that's very intelligent, very
But
clever.
I'm not that old. I mean, you can't guess my age. It's just.
Okay, we're going to do the over and under. Alexander, how old do you think you're going to go the over? I'm guessing 30. That's going to be the under.
I think it's under.
Okay. It's under 30, Ankit.
So if you Jim, if you reverse your numbers of your age, that is.
I see. Okay, so you were over our guess. You look younger than you are. Yes.
Thank you.
I'm very younger. He looks very, very younger. But when I first started talking to him, because I said the same thing, wow, this looks like a kid. And when he started talking, I go, wait a minute, he's a lot smarter than a kid. So there's no kid here. And resilient. He had a lot more experienced resilience. There's a difference, right?
Of course.
And I realized that this is no kid. This is, but I made that mistake with those 2 young boys, men.
Yeah. I've invited him on today's show. One of them would be joining, but they didn't confirm back.
So yeah, they've got an interesting podcast that I would like to see aired on IBM TV. One, because of what they do in their personal lives, I think is very, very interesting. But also, just it's a unique talk show for young people, even though they're not that young. They're still younger than me, and so I'm definitely interested in them. But I truly mistaken their age.
I've given up guessing. I reached the age where I cannot guess other people's age, unless they're around my age.
Jim, do you remember Jackie Mason's shows? Have you watched him? Jackie Mason?
Mason, oh yes, he was very funny.
Do you remember one of his routines is that when there is an intermission, what people are doing during the intermission?
I don't remember that bit.
Yeah, he was talking about that once intermission starts, all people immediately start to ask each other, how old do you think he is? That was question number one. Then second question was, how much do you think he's making in one show? Look at how many people came, and all what he does talking, nothing else. And he doesn't have partners, he doesn't have anybody. So everything, whatever the cake of selling tickets and everything else, going right into his pockets. So they were trying to figure out how many people came, how much are the tickets, and how much he's making each show.
Yes. Well, he was paying his dues in the Catskills before
yes,
he came
yes, he did. Yeah.
So one question for Jim and Alexandra. At what age you started playing chess or following chess?
Was that to me, Uncle? It was.
That to both of you?
To both of you.
Sasha, I defer to you.
You go first. Jim.
All right. Well, one thing about the interview, when I just came in, she was listing off the things that she talked about and about life and love, and I didn't hear chess, so I immediately fell out of love with her too. And but I got started when Bobby Fischer was becoming the challenger to Boris Spassky, and that match is a famous match in 1972. But before that, he beat 3 consecutive grandmasters. The first 2 he beat 6-0, 6-0. So he became a sensation in the United States. And the United States is a capitalist society, and chess had no monetary value. So it was not a big deal in America. But when Fischer started to ascend to the world championship level, everybody in America was paying attention. There was shows devoted to chess, television shows you could watch on TV. This is amazing to me. He was on the front page of the New York Times. He was on the cover of Life magazine. So of course I got hooked. And at the same time, I had a skiing injury, a serious skiing injury that took my knee out of whack, and I couldn't move around very gracefully. Not that I ever did, but it was serious constraint at that time. And my dad brought home a chess book. Now Bobby Fischer is in the news, and here's this chess book. And Sasha will know the book. It was My System by Aaron Nimzovich. And I fell in love because he had a way of words that just expressed love and put life into the game for me. And I was hooked. And I'm the type of person, when I get hooked, I just devour information on it. So all the data that I could compile from all the local bookstores, and these are used books, he paid 25 cents for that book. And it gave me a lifelong, it was a gift that lasted a lifetime. And I was involved in chess. I played in my first official tournament in 1972.
Wow.
Sasha?
Well, my first book was, my father taught me to play chess, and my first book was International Grandmasters Tournament by David Bronstein.
Oh.
And it's one of the best chess books ever written, still considered to be. I was really taken by the names of these grandmasters I never heard, the beautiful games they played, the commentaries by David Bronstein. And then my next book was 300 Games of Alexander Alekhine, which is also one of the best books. And I started this game. Of course, my level was very poor at the time when I read this book. So as I read this book, I think my level improved, of course, too, because I started to, I was, in a way, I was chess prodigy, because I remember that my parents would take me over to some grown-ups gatherings, parties, Thursdays or so on. And in Russia, everyone has a chessboard. So my father would propose that anybody would challenge me for, I think, 10 rubles per game. And I started to win, and it was pretty good money at the time. So I started to actually, I became money player Although I was only 7 or 8 years old, but I was beating all these grown-ups. So that was quite interesting.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I was playing very fast. I was very confident in my abilities, and well, you know the story that later on I questioned right of Petrosian to be nominated as a world champion. He never beat me, and that's what happened anyway. Yeah, and of course I followed Fischer Spassky match, and that was quite an event. I think it's still a lot of people still consider to be the most important event of all chess history. There are many reasons to that, as we know. First of all, it's but you know what's interesting is I was thinking today about something. Uh, when Fischer challenged Spassky for a world championship, the score was 3-0 for Boris Spassky with 2 draws. So Fischer was considered to be a great underdog in that match, at least at the beginning. Second thing is, but the same thing happened when, if you remember, when Capablanca, well, it's history of chess, Capablanca played Alokin. Alokin was great underdog because he never defeated Capablanca at the board at that time. So Alokin was great underdog, and Alokin had to carry all organizations' aspects of the match, including raising considerable prize fund.
Yeah.
And the funniest thing is that he raised money in Argentina, not because they loved Alokin, they wanted to see a great victory of Capablanca. That's why they actually put up the money for the match. Now, the mystery to me, though, is how come in the 1998 and then in 2000, but 98 when Shirov defeated Kramnik, and therefore he had the right to challenge Kasparov for a world championship. And in my opinion, Shirov hasn't done much to make this match a reality. I don't know. Well, story from Kasparov's point of view was that match wouldn't have any chess interest because he had devastating score against Shirov, which is fine, but so did Capablanca, had a great score against Alokin. So did Spassky had a great score against Fischer. But those 2 matches happened, and underdog won. So something is missing in this history of Shirov versus Kasparov. What do you think, Jim?
Grandmasters, and then there are great grandmasters, and he belongs in that category. And this match is not familiar to me, the one you're describing. So I don't have a comment on that, but I would go back to what you told me before, that we, in America, we called Paul Morphy the pride and sorrow of chess. He was from New Orleans. He was also a child prodigy, much like yourself, Sasha. And he stormed all of Europe and won all these tournaments, and then he disappeared. He suffered from a mental illness, and there's no sense in speculating what kind or how it affected him. But after bursting on the scene and becoming the greatest player of his time, he stopped playing chess. And after the Fischer-Spassky match, Fischer, who had burst on the scene and caused all of this excitement, stopped playing chess. And he, as Sasha reminded me of this, he turned down millions of endorsement opportunities, and he became the brand new pride and sorrow of chess. Now, Kasparov, to me, was the greatest player of all time, and I don't know how strong he was as early. I know that his matches with Kasparov, he grew with Korchnoi. With Karpov, he grew considerably. He came in maybe not as good as after playing Karpov all those games. And then he became, in my opinion, the best of all time. And as good a player as Shirov was, I can't imagine putting him above Kasparov.
Well, what's happened though is that you see, Kasparov won match against Anand in 1995. Then there were 3 years that Kasparov struggled to have another chess match for world champion. But by 1998, it was clear that he has to play somebody simply because his world championship title became somewhat stale. He still was a world champion. Nobody could beat him in a match, but there were no matches either. So it's not that it never happened in history. Same thing happened with Lasker, who for many years didn't play any matches, but yet he remained world champion. For obvious reasons, nobody could beat him. And Alohin was, well, finally he lost his match against Awe, but he won back in 2 years. So Kasparov had a dilemma what to do about his upcoming world championship match against anybody for that practical reason. So at that time, obvious challenger would be Anand again and Kramnik, who becoming stronger and stronger player. So the logical thing was to organize a match between Kramnik and Anand, and the winner would challenge Kasparov. That's fine, except one thing. Before that match would start, Anand asked for bank guarantee of his prize fund. And the organizer of that would-be match between Kramnik and Anand, he was a very well-known chess organizer from Spain, Mr. Rentera, who did Linares tournaments all the time and so on, wealthy man. He was very upset with Anand for asking for the bank guarantees, and he said, nobody ever asked me to provide bank guarantees. If I said something, that is a bank guarantee. That's it. So Anand then said, and I don't know the history why Anand asked for bank guarantees, what possessed him, because he's a very modest person, and that was kind of unusual, but that's what he did anyway. So then they found the replacement for Anand, and that replacement happened to be Alexei Shirov. So Shirov was playing Kramnik for the right to challenge Kasparov. And what's happened is that, history, Shirov won a brilliant match against Kramnik. Nobody expected that. So now the match Kasparov-Shirov became a real possibility because Shirov, by virtue of beating Kramnik, became the challenger. Now, here what's happened is that Kasparov had a catastrophic score against Shirov. Kasparov beat him, I think, 9 times with a few draws, and either he lost one game or maybe he didn't even lose one single game against Shirov. But he had devastating score, plus score. So Kasparov was really trying to organize the match, but the prize fund at that time should have been $2, maybe even $3 million, but nobody wanted to put this type of money for match Kasparov-Shirov because there was no intrigue, there was nothing to suggest that there would be any real fight. So the best Kasparov could afford was he found the sponsors, but they would put only $500,000 prize fund. So the story goes that Shirov was talking to people like, for example, Karpov, and Karpov suggested strongly to refuse to play this match for $500,000. It has to be at least $2, maybe even more $1 million. And basically that match collapsed. There was never much Kasparov-Shirov, as we know. Instead, Kasparov played Kramnik, who was a loser of the match. Now, in match Kramnik-Shirov, there was a prize for a loser, which was, I don't want to speculate, probably maybe $50,000, something like this. So Kramnik collected that loser's prize. But Shirov never got winner's prize, because the winner's prize was the match with Garry Kasparov. But he couldn't collect that because there wouldn't be no match with Kasparov. So Shirov left dry with no money whatsoever for his match with Kramnik. Furthermore, he never played match for a world championship. And Kramnik played Kasparov instead. And Kramnik, believe it or not, won that match. Now, mind you, that Kramnik was in his best form of his life, and Kasparov was in his worst form in that particular match, and Kramnik became a world champion. So for Shirov was a double whammy. He was left with any prize, and he never played any match for world championship either. So that's a really tragedy of his chess biography.
That is so interesting, Sasha. I was not aware of that background. And thank you for filling that in for me. And I'm sure other chess fans did not know all of that. And I can't believe that Shirov got stiffed for beating Kramnik. That's just a tragedy.
There's
It's a tragedy, yes.
There's so much in chess that you don't know about, right? That all of these moments and everything. And unfortunately, our day is out, and we're going to have to call it. But we're going to do this again because you two are great to listen to, especially when it comes to the storylines and the different inputs of what's going on in the world. Eket, let's get our ambassador up.
Yeah. Just a moment. Here we go.
Coronavirus से कैसे बचेंगे? Okay. हैंड होकर और ऐसे अपने खांसी जब आएगी तो ऐसे करेंगे अच्छू अच्छू और कोरोना वायरस को धन्यवाद हमारा सुनने का.
There you go, folks.
Here we go.
The future, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Thursday. We might have some technical difficulties, but we'll try to overcome it because different countries have different bandwidth, and sometimes it's difficult for them to connect on live shows like this. But we'll try to overcome from next time onwards. And thank you for joining us. And we have to start a new show, Chess Hour with Jim and Alexander, apart from Sasha's show. So we need to line up the schedule for that show. And that would be great discussion about chess from past, what happened and what are the future chess players could be. And thank you. And thank you for joining us. And take care. Stay at home, stay blessed, and stay united.
Stay connected.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.